Everywhere in this world, every day countless people die for many reasons. Some are known in advance, and others die for unintended reasons that they themselves never thought of. Unexpectedly, at a school in Korea, the sky was clear blue. Under the bright sunlight, there was a student wearing a white military shirt, not playing or studying with friends, but instead is freely falling from the sky amidst the surrounding landscape of countless skyscrapers. Why? Questions flashed in this student's head, but at a few moments it seemed like at the end of my life. Perhaps the answers to those questions no longer had much meaning. A close-up of his face, his eyes still wide open with unclear emotions. His face looked quite angular and handsome, but at that time he was full of wounds. The sound of the wind rushing past his ears. Until now he still didn't understand why he was falling from the rooftop like that. All his plans, his degree is still unfinished. He is planning to graduate early, trying to endure all the difficulties. Falling from upstairs. His eyesight is on the rooftop with 4 boys standing against the railing. On the rooftop, there was one person who couldn't clearly see how he was feeling, but the remaining 3 young men vaguely showed a happy smile at the scene of him falling from the upper floor. At this seemingly quick yet slow moment, his face looked confused and incomprehensible. I really didn't understand. I didn't understand why things had come to this step. But there was one thing he was sure of. Today was the day he died. He realized that the real ending he was about to receive was very simple. His body was upright, but his head was pressed to the ground with his chest. The student was still falling rapidly to the ground. In his mind at this moment he was thinking, can't I say I'm dead? Is the outcome waiting for this student to be death or something else? Is the male lead also dead? Must be, or another surprise happened for our male lead. The scene changed to a hospital. Time passed very quickly. A nurse's voice rang out. Grandma, it's been 3 months. I am sorry to inform you, but I've never seen a patient wake up after being diagnosed as a vegetative person. I think you should prepare. The scene flashes from outside the hospital, going to the quiet hallway in the ward, and moving inside a room. What caught my eye was a young man wrapped in bandages, his nose plugged with an oxygen tube. Lying motionless, sitting next to the hospital bed, was an old woman with white hair. After hearing the girl's words, she angrily shouted and interrupted her. What the hell are you talking about? What do you mean my grandchild will never wake up? Do you want me to give up? The agitated old lady asked harshly, making the lady hastily explain. I didn't mean that. Lying unconscious on the hospital bed was the student who fell from upstairs. Down. His consciousness sensed the things happening around him again. He thought to himself, and after I fell from the rooftop, I was diagnosed as a vegetable, which I had only heard about before. Sitting next to the hospital bed, the old lady hugged his hand sobbing and said, My Hyun-sung, you can feel your grandmother. She kept urging her grandson not to give up. Wake up, my grandchild. Wake up. How could you leave like this? Grandma's voice echoed in Hyun-sung's ears. You can hear Grandma's voice too. I'll be fine. I haven't if I ever get sick or anything. I'm sure I'll be able to walk again soon. But in this dark world, there's nothing I'm allowed to do. In the quiet hospital room late at night, her voice continued to echo. She cried and held his hand, saying, Hyun-sung, those people told her to give up hope. How could she do that? She raised you when you died. Mom and Dad, I will never leave you alone. She stood next to your bed. Next she begged you, just once is enough. Show me a sign that you are still alive. Be aware. Hearing the miserable words from his grandmother, Hyun-sung tried to urge himself. Move. I say move. He angrily shouted to himself in his heart. His consciousness was at another time in Hyun-sung's hospital room. Outside the door was beautiful sunlight shining everywhere. In the hospital room there was a sound. Honey, I couldn't stand it any longer. Next to Hyun-sung's hospital bed was a schoolboy in uniform sitting down beside his bed and crying. The dogs who bullied him now turned to bully me. There were scars on his face. Bruised. His cheek was still bandaged. This student's face was both miserable and full of despair. Hearing this student speak, Hyun-sung still felt it and angrily scolded him. You guys are insulting. Outside he continued. She is starting to work for a restaurant to earn money to pay her fees and keeps injuring herself. What should I do? Shedding tears while recounting her hardships of the family. It turns out that this guy is Hyun-sung's younger brother. Hyun-sung was quite frightened when he heard that. Why? She was outside of Hyun Sung's younger brother, as if he had reached his limit. He exclaimed, "Just go. Our family won't have to suffer like this if you die." He sobbed. Tears filled his face and shouted, "Please, wake up. Stop lying there and get up quickly." The tears of loved ones kept falling, touching Hyun Sung's spirit. "Forget about getting up and living again. My tears can't even fall. This must be a dream. I'm dreaming a long dream. If I just wait a little longer, I can definitely wake up from this dream. Maybe reality is too cruel." So Hyun Sung tried to comfort himself like that. Time flies by. It's been 3 years since Hyun Sung had an accident. Outside the hospital's green campus, there are countless patients walking or sitting and thinking in this place. Inside Hyun Sung's hospital room, he secretly exclaimed, "I think Hyun Jin hasn't been here for a long time." In your hospital room there were 2 women chatting with each other. One spoke softly. "Did you hear that it's patient Kim, Hyun Sung's grandmother? Did you faint?" Was the other person telling the truth? Hyun Sung was startled when he heard it. "What is it?" Outside, those 2 women were laughing and joking. "It seems like we can turn up the library's volume." In his mind, Hyun Sung silently cursed. "Fuck you. Fate doesn't mean anything." In his mind, images of faces and names of those people flashed through his mind. Park Min-chul, Cho Young-taek, Young Min-ho, Kang Chang-suk, Oh Dae-hwan, Kim Young-chul, and even the teachers who covered for those bastards. If there was a miracle that would help me return to that time, I would crush it. Crushed one by one, as if by some mysterious magical power. Everything seemed to fade and pass quickly. From the image of Hyun Sung on the hospital bed, to the photo of his family of 3, Hyun Sung's angry grandmother was playing out the scene of him trying to crush every single person who bullied him. Hyun Sung's hand grabbed Park Min-chul's head, causing him to scream in panic. "Scream, save me, it's so painful." Hyun Sung continues to beat him. "Why is he hurting more than me? A bedridden person. I'm sure no matter how much pain you're in, it's nothing like what my grandmother had to endure." After frantically punching and kicking Park Min-chul, in Hyun Sung's mind he continuously spoke angrily. The scene was a bright red color, covered in blood, of the people who had killed him. Bullying him before was beaten to the ground. His insides fought fiercely. No, this is not what he needed. There was no return like this. From beginning to end, tell me what method I will plan to root out, so that they can't get up anymore. Let them face something even more terrible than I did. A perfect plan, destroying everything in their lives. Outside time passed quickly continuously. 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, then 7 years later. The long continuous time tortured his soul full of wounds and deepening his hatred for everyone who had hurt him over the years. His dark inner mind continued to think, "Yes, this is a good plan. You bastards." But, outside Hyun Sung's hospital room, 10 years have passed. He is still lying motionless on the hospital bed. He must be thinking in frustration. "Anyway, it's all useless. I don't care who it is. But please end my life." 10 long years of lying motionless on a hospital bed without being able to do anything. Hoping, angry, hating, but perhaps at this moment he had reached his limit. He desperately prayed. As soon as his life was finished, outside, at the corner of Hyun Sung's eyes, tears were already streaming down his face. In his subconscious, a tall and strong man appeared, wearing a hospital gown. While standing there watching, the man smiled softly at him. He also smiled when facing that person. Suddenly moved to a place full of light. He thought to himself, "Is it morning already?" This scene is in a classroom. Everything in front of him is too familiar to Hyun Sung. There are whispers around him that make him mistake it for a familiar TV sound. And the blackboard. Sees the blackboard. Suddenly Hyun Sung seemed to wake up from the blackboard. There was a voice. "Stop this bastard. Stop it now." Hyun Sung saw the image before his eyes and didn't dare to believe it. There were students laughing, talking loudly in class. He thought to himself, "That's right. It must be another old dream." At the same time he raised his hand to pinch his cheek. But the pain woke him up from that illusion. Where, really, if this isn't a dream? Suddenly saw a pen placed on the table. Hyun Sung picked it up without any hesitation and stabbed it straight into his thigh. And it really hurt. "Don't you dare to believe. It's not a dream. I'm really back." After so many times of hope and despair, he couldn't believe it was true. Hyun Sung sat in the middle with a pen in his hand. Bewildered, Suddenly, a loud voice rang out in the classroom. "What are you talking about? This bitch." Turned out to be Park Min-chul. As he spoke, he raised his foot and kicked the student sitting at the back of the classroom. Fell to the ground. Everyone around could only stand and watch. He continuously kicked this student's body, cursing at the same time. "I'll do it myself. You son of a bitch. If you want me to do it myself, then I tell you what to do." The student was beaten until his face was bruised. "Please stop. I won't do it again." That student's plea evoked the pain and misfortune Hyun-sung had experienced. He still thought this situation was the beginning of his pain. Flashed through Hyun's mind, Sung are images from the past, of him lying in bed for many years in a vegetative state. The image of his grandmother sobbing, Hyun-jin desperately begging him to wake up. The image of him helplessly falling from the floor downstairs. The face of the ringleader who caused his pain was at that moment. Without thinking much, Hyun-jin stood up and walked over and said stop. Park Min-chul turned his head again. "Did you hear wrong?" He put his butt on the table and laughed and said, "Interesting, interesting. Hey Kim Hyun-sung, do you think you can handle this situation? Do you think you can't similar to this guy but you're thinking?" Hyun-sung stood there faceless listening to Park Min-chul despise him. Surrounded by secretly scared classmates standing around watching, he continued to say, "You are nothing." Before he could finish his sentence, Hyun-sung's face was extremely cold and without any warning, he punched him hard in the face. At this point, he really felt like he had returned to his first year of high school. About the exact moment he had wished for so long. On the other hand, Park Min-chul never thought he would be punched by someone he despised. Time goes back to that year, to the day when everything in Hyun-sung's life would change dramatically. Not in a good direction, but in a direction that Hyun-sung will probably never be able to, as you can imagine. He can still vividly remember what happened that day. During the classroom's break time, every student was doing their own work or chatting with their friends happily. Apparently, at the end of the class, there was a student with dyed yellow hair and only wearing a white tank top that did not match the school's style. He was Park Min-chul. He was listening, class in a strange way. He is a typical case of a bully and harasses his friends. He really likes the game called Online Legend. Next, Park Min-chul, because he wants to have the person who upgraded my game, grabbed a good student who looked quite chubby at the back of the class. "Hey, you're smart. You must be good at playing online games. Can you upgrade my character for me?" As soon as he held the phone, his other hand firmly squeezed the chubby student's shoulder. His tone sounded like a negotiation but was full of menace, making the scared student quickly say yes. Seeing that, Park Min-chul smiled, jokingly asked again, "You just said yes, so now you agree to upgrade my character, right?" And from that day on, Lee Young-min, the chubby, good student, looked quite kind, becoming Park Min-chul's gaming machine. Lee Young-min's score, who was at the top of the class, has dropped, and hasn't let up yet. Park Min-chul continues to harass Lee Young-min. "Hey, you got the score. He's so tall. He must have a lot of money. Right? He's like a ghost haunting this week. Good student." Because he persistently poured money into the game and bought items for Park Min-chul. Lee Young's stress. Min had reached his climax. So he told him directly, "From now on you should play by yourself." And on that day, this was the first time Hyun-sung witnessed a violent scene. Happened right before my eyes. He didn't want to cause any more trouble, but he remembered that Lee Young-min was sometimes kind enough to give him lessons. I just couldn't stand by and watch Lee Young-min being beaten without any of his friends coming forward to help. Seeing Hyun-sung want to come forward to help, his friend grabbed his hand and held him back. "Hey, don't do that." He doesn't agree to refute. "But that's not right." The other friend looked worried and advised Hyun-sung not to interfere in this matter. "Are you crazy? That's Park Min-chul, that's it. Messing with him is digging your own grave." Even though Hyun-sung knew what his friend was saying, he still decided to pull his hand away from his grasp. He thought to himself, he's a good person, sports, and had never fallen behind in the boys' pecking order, so he thought to himself that he could intervene in this matter. At that time, Hyun-sung walked closer to Park Min-chul, who was beating Lee Young. Min asked him to stop, making him surprised, and turned around to look at him. At that time the name Park Min-chul wasn't too scary for him. Since the teacher arrived, the situation was handled quickly, brutally. Since then Park Min-chul's gang started harassing Hyun-sung like crazy. every day Hyun Sung was dragged and beaten violently continuously by Park Min-cheol's gang. His body was always full of injuries. Not having a single day to recover, Hyun Sung was beaten until he became a mess. Even after school, there were days when Hyun Sung could not sleep, due to being bullied, such as running errands for their games. He was forced to drag his injured body and wounded hands up all night just to play games for Park Min and the others. Chul, hell, there's no other word to describe my condition at the moment. Everything is back to the very moments that are about to start the hellish time series that may lead to death. Maybe Hyun Sung I will never forget. Right in the first grade of the first term, all the students in the class were stunned and frozen by Hyun Sung's action of punching Park Min-cheol, the leader of this school, in the face. Perhaps even Park Min-cheol himself could never have imagined that he would be beaten like this. He opened his eyes wide and stood still for 5 seconds. After he regained consciousness, he was angry like a wild animal. Being insulted, he roared, "Fuck you," but before he could express himself any further, Hyun Sung's hand quickly, strongly grabbed his head and slammed this guy's face onto the desk right in front of everyone, causing him so much pain that his legs trembled slightly. Hyun Sung, still holding his hair, lifted it up and saw Park Min's face. Chul was already covered in blood. Blood flowed from his mouth onto the table, because he was still dizzy from being hit hard on the table. His eyes had not yet regained focus. Several students stood there, looking at the class quietly gossiping. Is it blood? The class president is always like that. Didn't stop there. This moment, this situation, Hyun Sung engraved it in his mind as he was in a coma. He continued punching Park Min-cheol hard in the face, seemed to unleash all the anger and humiliation from the past when he and his loved ones were pushed by this person into a situation of eternal invincibility. Park Min-cheol has the style, the typical fighting style is to rely on his physical strength. He is not used to being beaten, because he will definitely fall if Hyun Sung lands the first blow. The moment he tries to reach after being punched in the face, he considered grabbing his hair and smashing his face into the table. Hyun Sung had been constantly reproducing this scenario for the past 10 years, or even this next move. Maybe he didn't know how much Hyun Sung had been waiting for this moment. Right now, after continuously punching Park Min-cheol in the face and body countless times, Hyun Sung grabbed his shirt and threw it hard into the locker at the back of the classroom. After falling down onto his back, leaning against the locker, Hyun Sung quickly kicked Park Min-cheol's face and body, hard, blow by blow, never holding back. In his mind right now he didn't care if he was beaten, tattered or not. If he raised his face, you would kick him in the face. And if he blocked it with his hand, he would be kicked until his arm was broken. Suddenly there was a chair flew straight and hit hard in the direction where Hyun Sung was standing, interrupting him as he slowly called Park Min-cheol. Hyun Sung coldly turned his head and looked in the direction of the flying chair. Opposite him was the door. Entering and exiting the classroom behind, a group of students aggressively rushed in, screaming, "Stop and look, you bastard!" Someone called Min-cheol. Seeing this group of people, Hyun Sung was not afraid at all but shook his head slightly, made it make a light crackling sound, and at the same time coldly said, "What if I don't want to?" Hyun Sung's tough attitude also made these guys stunned because no one had dared to treat them before. So, one of them said softly, "Is this bastard really crazy?" and rushed into Hyun Sung's class. There was a student with purple hair, many earrings, looking extremely rational, but if he, meaning Hyun Sung, was causing trouble with Park Min-cheol, then there's no way he wouldn't know this. He doesn't look scared at all. Can he help? This purple-haired student is Young Minho, a member of Park Min-cheol's gang, a freshman in Group 8, stood next to Young Minho, a tall student with a rather fierce look on his face, and said, "Are you scared? Fine, I will end your game today." It's called Park Min-cheol's gang just because Park Min-cheol is the leader of bullying the kids. At this point, this big guy took a few steps forward, just walking cross-legged, breaking his arms and stretching his joints. Looking at him coming, Hyun Sung immediately realized that in reality, in Park Min-cheol's gang, this big guy is the strongest in the group when it comes to fighting. Punch. His name is Kang Chang-suk, belongs to Park Min-cheol's gang, a first-year student, Group 8. On this side, Hyun Sung stood coldly watching his opponent approach, while Kang Chang-suk angrily stepped forward as if he wanted to devour Hyun Sung. Suddenly, the voice of a short-haired female student standing outside the door rang out. "Hey, the teacher is coming," interrupting the fight that was about to happen. Suddenly Park Min-chul was beaten and was half-sitting leaning against the cabinet and spoke. "Chang Suk, go, we will deal with it later." Before leaving, Kang Chang-suk crouched down to be at Hyun-sung's height, leaned close to his face and warned in a strong voice. "Just know that you damn guy. I will find you as soon as class ends. All of you gangs." Of Park Min-chul turned and left. Kang Chang-suk even turned around to threaten Hyun-sung. "Don't even think about running away, baby." A guy as thin as a skeleton also spoke up. "You can even expect that." Hyun-sung didn't say anything and watched those guys leave, while Park Min-chul stayed behind, groaning due to the painful wound on my head. Next, the teacher entered the classroom and the lesson took place as usual. Sitting at the back of the classroom, Park Min-chul crossed his arms on the table and put his head down, silently angrily thinking in his heart, "Damn, what the hell is going on? I remember being punched first, but at that time I was already beaten on the floor. Come to think of it, Park Min-chul has never been humiliated like that before." He cursed Kim Hyun-sung. "How dare you insult me? I will kill you." His eyes were angry, his face was fierce. He glanced slightly at Hyun-sung's seat and thought, "The others will gather here when the class ends. Do you think you can escape?" To be honest, if I hadn't let my guard down I wouldn't have been defeated by that bookworm. He would have taken action because he had never seen. I would have bullied him. Even though he was the class monitor and occasionally interfered, there was always a line between the two that crossed them, but it never crossed the line. So Park Min-chul doesn't need to mess with class president Hyun-sung. Anyway, it's certain that Hyun-sung has crossed the line before. I will let you die when class is over. In the first year class, Group 8, the teacher's voice was lecturing. "Please pay attention. The content of today's class will appear in the midterm exam." Sat in the last row of desks, in the same classroom, the skinny guy with a hairpin on his head lamented and said, "That bastard is so annoying." Kang Chang-suk sitting at this table replied, "I know it would be better if his class ended early." "Do you think so?" Sat in between the two of them, Young Min-ho glanced at the clock on the wall to see the time, and replied, "But hey, Kim Hyun-sung, is he on drugs or something?" He acted like there was no way back. "I thought it would be resolved easily." Young Min-ho didn't think it was a big deal and crossed his arms to give his opinion. "But he just needed if we do that. We're going to trample on him first." Young Min-ho put his hand on his chin and silently thought, could it be that he spread rumors about that story? The skinny guy sitting at the next table replied, "No way." Young Min-ho continued, "He might have lost his mind. But whatever the reason, Kim Hyun-sung would be looking down on us in front of everyone. If he left it like that, the others will also start to look down on us. So even if we have received the request, we should take this opportunity to stomp on it to make sure, so that Kim Hyun-sung will never looking at us with those arrogant eyes." It seems like Young Min-ho is the one who thinks the most in the group. He is constantly thinking about how to trample on Hyun-sung. Back to the first year class. Group 1. Park Min-chul was still angry, with no place to vent because he was humiliated in front of many people. He growled and thought, "Sure, that bastard. I plan to kill him." Finally, the time for the end of school has come. The teacher walked out of the classroom and inside. Park Min-chul couldn't wait any longer, immediately slammed the table and stood up, whispering in his heart, "Kim Hyun-sung, this time you're done." But before he could do anything, a gust of wind hit. Accompanied by it, Hyun-sung's foot landed directly on his face. With a bang, Park Min-chul was suddenly kicked by Hyun-sung, flying up and straight in the face. Park Min-chul's eyes rolled back. Without resting for a second, Hyun-sung continued to grab Park Min-chul's hair. He was suddenly attacked. Park Min-chul didn't have time to figure out what was happening. The only thing in his mind was, what happened? Outside, Hyun-sung grabbed Park Min-chul's hair and pulled his head to look up at him. He said to him in a harsh voice, "We should continue what we were talking about earlier." Park Min-chul helplessly looked at Hyun-sung thinking, "You bastard, what is the deal? You avoid us." At this moment, Hyun-sung raised his fist and cursed. "Fuck you." Park Min-chul couldn't believe it. Did he really want to fight? In the first year class, Group 8, the teacher announced that it was time for today, which meant school was over. Immediately, Park Min-cheol's gang, the 3 students in this class, all stood up. Young Min-ho coldly said, "He has nowhere to hide anymore." The remaining sick ghost replied, "This is a school. Where to hide now?" The whole group shouted with enthusiasm, "Let's go. Go beat him, damn Kim Hyun-sung." Outside the first-year class, Group 1, there were a few students gathered around the door looking inside, gossiping about something. The 2 of them, Young Min-ho, led the way and went to Hyun-sung's class, but saw a large number of students gathered around the classroom door, making the whole group feel confused. "I don't know what's going on anymore." Suddenly heard Park Min-cheol screaming and cursing, echoed outside, "The bastard Kim Hyun-sung." They immediately rushed into the group of people running into Park Min-cheol's classroom. After pushing the students surrounding the door, Young Min-ho was the first to rush in, and saw Park Min-cheol's face covered in blood, probably beaten to the point of unconsciousness. Hyun-sung's hand was holding Min-cheol's shirt to pull him back. Young Min-ho stood stunned, dead outside the door. "I couldn't believe it." Hyun-sung looked like a devil, still continuing to want to fight. Hyun-sung raised his hand and glanced at the door to look at Young Min-ho and said calmly, "Are you so late?" All 3 of Park Min-cheol's juniors don't look at Hyun-sung, one hand holding the fainted Park Min-cheol in his other hand, the other hand raised to prepare to punch him again. Seeing that, Kang Chang-suk was extremely angry. This dog, at the same time, ran like an angry buffalo. At this moment, Hyun-sung was extremely alert and calculated how to repay the existing hatred in my heart for the past 10 years. There hasn't been a moment that hasn't gnawed at his soul. You keep thinking about this scene when you lay in a coma 10 years ago. You took care of Park Min-cheol. There's no problem at all. But the biggest problem is this guy, Kang Chang-suk. Beating Park Min-cheol is quite easy, but there's no way to beat this guy easily with your current strength. So what should he do now? Hyun-sung's eyes fell on the lock hanging loosely on the cabinet door in front of him. Simply do something he had never done before. Hyun-sung took the lock and held it tightly in his hand. He threw the lock straight into the temple of Kang Chang-suk, who was frantically rushing towards him. He screamed in agony. Hyun-sung quickly came up with the idea of holding the lock and hitting the opponent, causing Kang Chang-suk to bleed. Playing nice. You don't care about that at all. To fight back, you have no time to choose anymore. How can you go 1 against 4 at this decisive moment? Without stopping, Hyun-sung continued to grab his hair, the other hand holding the lock and continuously hitting the other person's head. No matter how you work out, I'm sure you won't be okay with being hit with metal, right? One more hit and Kang Chang-suk's head sent him flying out. Defeated the strongest guy in Park Min-cheol's gang. Both Young Min-ho and the skinny guy standing outside the door looking at Hyun-sung like evil the demon incarnated, and knocked out 2 people in the group, making both of them pale in fear and could only stand there looking. And this was his chance. Dropping the padlock in his hand, as if he had calculated a plan to win. There were many people. He gained momentum. If he rushed at him with this weight, the intended target was the thin starved man remaining in the group, who rushed towards him with strength and force. Calculated. Hyun-sung had knocked this guy away. Cho Young-taek would not be able to withstand the force of this knock on him. And when Hyun-sung slammed this hungry guy down the hallway, he will not be able to react to the next attack. Continuously landed punches on Cho Young-taek's body. He was completely unable to resist Hyun-sung's powerful punches. He had already planned it. He didn't need to. Note that if Young Min-ho attacks from behind, it would be better to knock out Cho Young-taek on the spot, so he can win, while they have more people than Hyun-sung, while he only has alone. After continuously beating Cho Young-taek brutally and without mercy, he is now covered in blood. The blood of Park Min-cheol. Kang Chang-suk and Cho Young-taek splashed on his face, and Hyun-sung made him look like a devil coming out of hell to take revenge. He had been preparing this in his mind for a long time, but it seemed like his body couldn't keeping up with the tactics he came up with to take revenge. Hyun-sung was also tired and panting. But anyway, he can't stop. The revenge isn't over yet because there's still a bastard over there, trying to stand up again, to continue fighting. Now that he saw Kim Hyun-sung continuously defeating all 3 of them, he was so scared that he was shaking himself. Maybe he hadn't realized it yet. He suddenly realized, Kim Hyun-sung was already this strong. but he is so strong that he can be removed from the list of targets to be bullied. He cannot be this strong. In Young Minho's eyes, Hyun-sung is now like a hideous monster with power that he cannot resist. Baring his teeth and growling at himself. Now that the farm has been defeated. Okay, so I can't defeat him on my own. Young Minho was so scared when he thought about it that sweat fell like rain on his body. Hyun-sung approached like a devil. Young Minho whispered, "We should, is it over?" Hearing Hyun-sung's threat, Young Minho's hands were shaking so much that he couldn't control them anymore. Young Minho silently scolded himself for damning his hands. At this moment, Hyun-sung raised his fist to attack. Young Minho had lost the will to fight, so he could only close his eyes in fear and reach out his hand to block the attack. At this moment, a voice rang out, interrupting the two's fighting. More precisely, one side was unilaterally beaten. "Hey, what are you guys doing? As if you were saved." Hearing the teacher's voice speak, Young Minho happily chuckled in his heart. Ha ha, that's right, the teacher will pay attention to this case. Because he caused a fight. Now there are 3 students bleeding. This is a big problem at school. You're done, you idiot. Young Minho cheered. Imagine Kim Hyun-sung is about to be in big trouble. In the teacher's room, a voice rang out. "Come on, Kim Hyun-sung, are you crazy? Even as a boy there must be limits." Right, some of them had to go to the hospital with bloody faces. A male teacher continuously pointed at Hyun-sung and criticized him for his mistakes. But in his mind, this male teacher worriedly thought, "This will happen. This is a worrying thing. If things go wrong, he is a teacher and could be held responsible as Kim Hyun-sung's advisor. If you don't want to get involved, then it's best for this guy to just scold Kim Hyun-sung." But why is this kid so calm? In such a big problem like this, he wonders. I can understand this student's attitude. Over there, besides the teacher, he continued to threaten and say, "This problem cannot be solved only at school. I have been a teacher for 10 years. But I have never seen anyone like you. Just prepare. Your parents won't forgive you that easily. You have to pay for what you've done." Hyun-sung calmly spoke up, interrupting the teacher's words. Teacher, don't overreact like that. This is not the first time school violence has happened." When students objected and ridiculed him, the teacher also suddenly asked again, "What happened?" Hyun-sung continued to say, "Whatever the teacher is good at, the teacher can only use it for him." The room was full of banners and signs against school violence. Hyun-sung continued to smile and suggest, "Teacher, just hide this matter. Then I won't have to get into any trouble," he said with a cold smile in his heart. "Then show your true feelings. Dear teacher," full of sarcasm, "just as you intended." Hyun-sung, this teacher was threatened like that by a student and slapped him in the face. He cursed, "This brat." The rest of the teachers in the room coldly watched Hyun-sung being beaten without paying any attention. Discouraged, just as he thought, the reason he had to die was not only because of being bullied. The cause of his death was both being bullied and the adults who were always busy and didn't bother to intervene. Anything outside this teacher. After beating Hyun-sung to relieve his anger, he angrily said, "Everything must have a limit. Don't you have any shame?" Not caring about the teacher cursing what? Hyun-sung was still silent. Remembering the past, he still remembered clearly. This teacher had accepted bribes from the students' parents. Especially Kim Young-chul. The advisor of the first semester was a teacher. Not to say he was a sentient being but could never be called a human being. Was beaten until his mouth bled. Hyun-sung coldly told the teacher to stop. Seeing a brat who didn't know, afraid of daring to confront him again. This angry teacher continued to raise his hand and was about to slap him on the body to continue this bastard. But Hyun-sung coldly spoke up. The teacher actually still intended to continue. Dirty. He didn't understand and asked, "What?" Hyun-sung continued to get close to the teacher. "You should lower your voice. If you don't do that, I have no choice but to report for others." Teachers accept bribes from students' parents. Especially from Young Minho's parents. As far as I know, you guys still contact each other regularly. You should shout that out loud at. Even if it's not. I still have one more thing. For example, the fear of the English teacher. Kim Young-chul was threatened by Hyun-sung with the hidden things that he himself did. He was extremely scared. He was so embarrassed that he shouted loudly. He stopped immediately. His hand continued to raise in the air, preparing to slap Hyun-sung's face. But he was not afraid at all to look at the guy with that guy's face. The teacher was extremely cold and said, "Kim Hyun-sung, this bastard." In Hyun-sung's past, after he endured endless bullying from Park Min-cheol's group, somehow then he finally came to a decision. At that time he knew clearly that it was not a good solution. But perhaps he did not know how else could change his situation. Hyun-sung went, looking for a teacher. At this time he thought he needed support from adults when he was constantly being abused at school like that. Opened the door to the teacher's room and met his class's support person, Kim Young-chul, when he just heard you explain how you were bullied. And he nonchalantly took the cup of coffee and replied, "I see, so something like that happened." Then he called the group. Park Min-cheol went into the teacher's room to ask about something. When Hyun-sung was there, Kim Young-chul asked, "Park Min-cheol, is what he said true?" Park Min-cheol calmly pretended not to. "What's the explanation?" "Hey teacher, there's no reason for me to bully my friends like that. We were just joking around. Because I have a rather big body. Hyun-sung is probably misunderstood that I was bullying him." Kim Young-chul is a teacher but handled this matter quite superficially. He only added, "Hey kid, whatever it is, don't bullying your friends. Don't you think it wouldn't be nice to punch each other in the face?" Park Min-cheol looked friendly in front of the teacher, put his arm around Hyun-sung's shoulder and replied, "Yes, teacher, I will pay attention." The rest of the group looked quite good and agreed, "Yes." It was very difficult for Hyun-sung to dare to find an adult to be a teacher to help. But it was as if nothing had happened. If that happened, it wouldn't solve anything and Park Min-cheol and his group would hate him even more. In the end, the adult solved his problem like that. At that time in the teacher's room when the group of people, Park Min-cheol smiled and said to the teacher, how Hyun-sung himself trembled when he was so blatantly threatened by Park Min-cheol. After leaving the teacher's room, Park Min-cheol and his group coldly called out to him, "You, follow me, damn Kim Hyun-sung, do you think you can do anything big if you tell the teacher?" Forced to follow them behind the school, Hyun-sung was brutally beaten by Park Min-cheol. Park Min-cheol continuously kicked him without mercy. Lying on the ground, Hyun-sung could only helplessly extend his hand to endure those brutal blows without anyone helping him. At that time, he saw that he was wrong. He also felt extremely angry with teacher Kim Young-chol's solution. If you are a teacher, if you are an educator, then at least it's your job to look into the matter when a student tells you he or she is being bullied. But when he is extremely dissatisfied with being treated coldly by the teacher to me when you reported that you were being abused and at the same time being beaten by Park Min-cheol. He kicked you hard and cursed. "Go die. Today I will really kill you." Then a figure appeared at the window where he was being beaten. Witnessing everything that was going on, he seemed to find hope at his most helpless moment. Was it a teacher? He thought, that's it. Because he directly saw you being beaten, he must have realized the severity of the incident, and will definitely punish them severely. But before he could secretly be happy for long, Kim Young-chol pretended not to see anything and turned away, making him extremely shocked by the involuntary action of a teacher, which he only discovered later. In fact, Kim Young-chol is nothing more than a scumbag. He used to receive money from parents, including Young Min-ho's parents, and it was one of his sources of income. At this moment, he realized the truth that from the beginning, he had no intention of solving this problem. Lying helplessly on the ground, Hyun-sung shed bitter tears. Tears kept rolling down, on his face full of wounds. Then he tried his best to solve this problem, even if he had to do it alone without anyone accompanying him while he was just a kid. Just a schoolboy, even when he knew that he wouldn't be able to win this war. He raised his fists. Hyun-sung fought to escape this hell-like reality. That day was particularly violent. He rose up and fought back against Park Min-cheol's group. However, the result that followed extinguished all his hopes. An extremely shrill female voice rang out, "Oh my God, what happened to my beloved son's face? What kind of bastard, what kind of bitch, made my Minho like this? Young Minho's nose is covered in ice, looks pitiful." Hyun-sung started first. Hyun-sung refused to say, "Does this make any sense?" After Hyun-sung's slave rebellion, they all went to the teacher's room to sue. After blaming Hyun-sung, Young Min-ho stood behind his mother and smirked very happily after fulfilling his plot. Young Min-ho's mother dressed luxuriously but was very close to her child and warned her. "Everyone heard that my son's precious nose is broken. We will not let this go." At this time, Hyun-sung's parent present at the teacher's office is his grandmother. because she was afraid that her grandson would be severely punished after the fight. Mrs. Hyun-sung, with white hair, trembled and bowed down to apologize to Young Min-ho and his family. On behalf of her grandson, she really apologized to her child, standing in Hyun-sung's room silently witnessing everything that happened. The intervention of adults, that was an area where he could not do anything without his parents. Even in his childhood, school violence committee, he also had to receive punishment alone, while he himself was injured much more seriously than them. And Park Min-cheol's gang went through his school life them without any problems. From that moment he fell into a coma, only later realizing that, in fact, he could not take revenge simply with force. Okay. Even the intervention of adults in this matter must be completely resolved, so that you can earn revenue in the true sense of the word. Back to the present. After being threatened by Hyun-sung this trash teacher stared wide-eyed at Hyun-sung. His eyes flashed with surprise when others knew his secret. Scared and helpless when it might be exposed. Letting everyone know and not being willing to be threatened by a student boy. Kim Young-chul reacted and immediately turned his head to look in all directions to see if anyone was nearby. Afraid that someone would hear and end his life, he regained his composure. Kim Young-chul acted like he wasn't afraid to talk. These meaningless things, acting like this wasn't a very important matter, didn't let him finish. Hyun-sung interrupted. Teacher, from now on when you talk to me, think carefully before you utter any words. Hyun-sung calmly detailed the bad deeds of this teacher. You were introduced to Young Min-ho's parents through a college senior, right? You took care of Young Min-ho even before he entered this school. And you received a monthly payment, winning as a reward. Besides, he also had an affair with a foreign language teacher, a married woman with 3 small children, and the two often went to motels. Can I say something more? You live so poorly, teacher, that this is not even the tip of the iceberg. Hyun-sung calmly sat down on the swivel chair that the other teacher had used earlier. Sitting, he continued, if all of my shortcomings were exposed, my life as a teacher would be very difficult, wouldn't it? Surely you don't think about considering these things as meaningless things anymore. If you keep acting like that, even if I make you leave this school, I will trample on your life. Hyun-sung's every sentence and every word continuously scared him. Hyun-sung remembered the old story. After he finished his 3rd year, Kim Young-chul's private life was revealed. His wife came to the school and slapped him hard and stamped the paper. The divorce form was left behind for him. Outsiders looking in will see that Kim Young-chul's family is quite well off. People also speculate that everything that can be called property belongs to his wife. If that was true, then he was sure that Kim Young-chul was probably most afraid of his bad things being exposed. So there was no way this blackmail wouldn't work. At this moment, Kim Young-chul had succumbed to Hyun-sung's threat. The fear of telling everything had caused him to bow his head before him. Kim Young-chul stood trembling in front of him, trembling and stammering unsuccessfully, sentence, and he was sitting proudly on the chair like a teacher. And Kim Young-chul was like a student who had made a mistake and admitted his mistake. Their fates had completely changed at this moment. He asked, do you want me? What are you going to do? Hyun-sung replied, it's simple. If you're going to keep me quiet, then keep the attitude you've lived with for so long. Listen to Hyun-sung's request while temporarily being Kim Young-chul. I don't understand. What do you mean? He continued to explain. Please continue to live like trash for the time being. Remain a spectator, idle with student problems and bury them even though I know it's wrong. But only the object is changing. From now on, you will have to do it for me. Prevent this from exploding, no matter what method is used. If you follow what I say until the day I graduate, then I will never reveal your secret. You understand what I mean, right? I bowed my head and looked at Hyun-sung, saying the request. As for Kim Young-chul, all the mother's sweat and child's sweat were out of fear. Hyun-sung was like a devil, every word seducing him. Now Kim Young-chul was officially tamed by him. He replied, yes, from now on I will try my best to solve a huge nuisance on the path of revenge in my life. Hyun-sung walked out of the teacher's room filled with relief. He thought, Kim Young-chul was just the first card he had thought of before. He had to quickly prepare the next card. Now there was something he had to do. Hyun-sung had. In the classroom, 3 of Park Min-cheol's gang had to be hospitalized due to physical injuries. Only Young Min-ho remained intact and had not been beaten. He was angry. in the classroom, expressing his own anger mixed with Hyun-sung's fear when he saw that he was stronger than he could imagine. He cursed, "You son of a bitch. Are you crazy? I will tear him apart and kill him as soon as he comes back here." While cursing at Young Min-ho, he kicked down his desk to vent his anger. Is the one who seems to play the role of strategist in the group. He continued to think, "I think Kim Young-chul is taking money from his mother. He won't leave Kim Hyun-sung alone. At least he will have to drop out of school. I won't see Kim Hyun-sung anymore and I won't have to hang around that guy either." More. To be honest, I was a little scared. Don't tell me the others couldn't catch me. Thinking about this made his anger flare up again. "You bastard." At the same time he took the table and threw it very hard. Other students were scared of him and could only stand and watch because no one dared to mess with Young Min-ho. As if trying to eliminate fear in confronting Hyun-sung, he frantically thought, "I will have to become a predator in this school. Just because of Kim Hyun-sung. I will never allow my status to plummet into the abyss." After calming himself down, Young Min-ho went straight to the back of the classroom and sat on the chair inside. It was probably just a coincidence. That bastard had already won against 3 people. If I saw him again I will destroy it easily. Without letting him imagine for long, Hyun-sung pushed open the classroom door and called his name. Young Min-ho. The call was like a devil from hell waking him up. "Wake up," Hyun-sung gently said. "We should finish what we were doing. Right? We should do it." Young Min-ho was extremely frightened by Hyun-sung's appearance and the questions. Didn't let him think for long. Hyun-sung's fist rushed forward. A powerful blow punched him and he flew out of the chair and fell to the floor. Hyun-sung calmly slowly walked closer to him. Just like a devil walking towards him. Fear invaded him so he couldn't fight back. He could only sit there trembling and turning pale. Hyun-sung continued with a straight kick to Young Min-ho's face, causing him to vomit blood. Hyun-sung grabbed his shirt and continued to punch him repeatedly. Young Min-ho's face. Young Min-ho's cry for help was vaguely heard. In Young Min-ho's head now thinking, "Crazy bastard. He is truly a lunatic. Please, someone please save." Suddenly saw Kim Young-chul's silhouette through the window. He was happy in his heart. It was Kim Young-chul. That's right. Damn. He received money from his mother, but stood outside class. Through the classroom window he saw Hyun-sung fighting. Remembering his promise, he silently cursed, "Damn," at the same time turned around and walked away as if he didn't know anything. Saw Kim Young-chul left without helping him, shocking him. Seeing that, Hyun-sung immediately told him his situation. "Don't expect any help, because no one in this school will help you." 5 minutes before the fight between Hyun-sung and Young Min-ho, in the teacher's room, Kim Young-chul sat on a chair and trembled, biting his nails, thinking about how to hide the incident. For Hyun-sung, "This is beyond my ability." Because of him, 3 students had to be hospitalized. Of course the school wouldn't want the situation to continue to get more serious. But if I don't discipline Kim Hyun-sung properly, the parents of the victims will definitely riot. Especially Young Min-ho's parents. Those two definitely won't let someone monitor their children. They are rich people who own a series of buildings. And they are also extremely famous in Daesun. They even contribute a lot to the school. Isn't it thanks to their money? The school improvement project was recently completed. Right. Moreover, those two are among the people personally welcomed by the principal. So their influence is undeniable. And on top of that, I also received money from them. The moment those two understood what was going on, even I was at a loss. I couldn't think of a way and my upcoming outcome would make Kim Young-chul crazy. Whole head. He held his head in fear, not knowing what to do now. Kim Young-chul tried to calm himself down. Think about it, think about it, think about it, think about it, Kim Young-chul. If there's no way, then my life will end from here. Suddenly, it seemed like he thought of a way, making his eyes widen. There was no other way. The only way was to separate Young Min-ho from him. This incident, Kim Hyun-sung hasn't done anything to Young Min-ho yet. That kid hasn't done anything to Young Min-ho yet. So if I can convince his parents, they can just let it go in this case. After all, those kids are just friends of the two of their sons. If I then find Kim Hyun-sung and ask him to at least leave Young Min-ho alone, then things are not necessarily so bad, like finding a way to live in a miserable situation. He smiled as if he had been saved through this incident. Thinking about it, Kim Young-chul quickly stood up, walked out of the room and went to Hyun-sung's classroom. at the same time worriedly thinking, I must quickly control Kim Hyun-sung, otherwise the situation will be unavoidable. Went to Hyun-sung's classroom, but the scene before him made Kim Young-chul stunned and stopped dead in his tracks. Since when did Hyun-sung beat Young Minho like that? This time my life will be over. Damn it, Young Minho's parents or whatever. My life will end when my relationship with my foreign language teacher is discovered. I'm depressed thinking about this, and Kim Young-chul angrily turns around. He walked away to his office, not wanting to see Hyun-sung beating Young Minho again. The other students watching the fight were also stunned to see the teacher leave while there were students fighting. Back in the classroom, Hyun-sung grabbed Young Minho's head and raised his hand in preparation another slap on Young Minho's face. Hyun-sung looks extremely fierce right now. You should learn to think about the past. You dare to look down on me, when you can only do this much. When you guys bullied me day after day for 3 years of high school. You kept saying, I'm like this because I'm too weak. Now look at you, shaking like a dog, while it hasn't even started yet. Indeed, by now, after being beaten by Hyun-sung, Young Minho's rather handsome face has been beaten so badly that his cheeks are almost unrecognizable. My precious boy. He was beaten to the point where he could only tremble in front of Hyun-sung. He thought Hyun-sung would continue to beat Young Minho to release his anger, but he chose to let go at this moment. After releasing his hand from Minho's body, Hyun-sung coldly walked back to his seat in the classroom without saying a word. Coming to his seat, he pulled out his chair and plopped down. Chair, let out a sigh, then glanced slightly at where Young Minho was sitting there and cursed. This damn idiot, and at the same time he knew that if he would leave Young Minho alone, the story of the other 3 guys would have been covered up in a much simpler way. But if he had really chosen the target for revenge from the beginning, he wouldn't have punched Park Min-chul right in the face right away. When he returns, he will instead choose to live a peaceful life away from those bastards. After going through hell on earth in the form of a vegetative state in a hospital bed for 10 years. The only thing the most he really desires is revenge. And this is the result of that. Everything will turn upside down soon. 3 people will be taken away and 1 more will be added. Like the principal said, that he will build Bright Prospects High School into a prestigious high school. He will definitely try to discipline me severely for this fraud. On the other hand, the number of witnesses who have seen what you are doing right now is too much. Big enough to be able to cover this up easily. No matter how hard he tries, he won't be able to stop it. If Hyun-sung can't even handle Bright Prospects High School, then you should give up the idea of revenge right from the beginning. This is just the beginning. Hyun-sung sat blankly looking at the classroom ceiling, thinking about the next steps for his revenge plan against everyone. The people who once brought pain to him, and his family members in that tragic past. Changed scene. In a room, an angry voice rang out. We were far from forgotten. In this matter, student Kim Hyun-sung not only hospitalized the victims and committed brutal acts of violence against them, but even after the counseling session with teacher Kim Young-chul, Kim Hyun-sung had absolutely no complaints. Doesn't seem like he's repentant at all. In addition, this student also mercilessly attacked student Minho. This is truly a heinous crime that. You have seen the students' faces, no victims yet. They were beaten so badly that they were no different from the gangsters in the movie. And the person who spoke up was Principal Oh Dae-hwan of Bright Prospects High School. Another person in the room also spoke up. Voice of agreement. Yes, I think we should discipline him immediately. A teacher dressed quite fashionable also voiced his agreement with disciplining Hyun-sung. I also agree with the opinion of the principal. And this person is none other than foreign language teacher Lee Min-young of Bright Prospects High School, and is married but has an affair with Hyun-sung's homeroom teacher, Kim Young-chul. She continued to speak up. We need to expel Kim Hyun-sung. Sitting next to Kim Young-chul was constantly worried to the point of sweating when his lover kept asking for discipline and expulsion. Learning from Hyun-sung, who holds the fatal weakness of both of them, cannot let her continue like that. Kim Young-chul must have gently asked her to stop talking. Lee Min-young turned his head in confusion, signaling back to ask what was going on. Kim Young-chul looked but couldn't speak, secretly worried in his mind. If you don't know anything, please sit still. If you don't want our relationship to be ruined, if you find out, you have to protect Kim Hyun-sung at all costs. But at this rate, if he gets expelled, everything will be over. Thinking of this, Kim Young-chul glanced slightly at the end of the table. where Hyun Sung was sitting. And he saw the whole scene there and smiled proudly. At this time Kim Young Chul spoke up to defend Hyun Sung. It was true that Kim Hyun Sung was wrong. But through observation as the homeroom teacher of District 1, this incident arose because the victims, including Park Min Chul, sat in the chair of the school meeting with Hyun Sung to decide how to handle it. Principal Oh Dae-hwan wondered when he saw Kim Young Chul say these words again. What do you mean, Kim Young Chul? Now that he's here, Kim Young Chul has no choice but to straighten his head and explain. Next, there were a lot of rumors about Park Min Chul's gang regularly bullying other students. I was planning on arresting them and disciplining him immediately. But it seems like student Kim Hyun Sung couldn't help it. Again, and the unfortunate incident happened as above. Dear teachers, student Kim Hyun Sung was a victim before becoming a perpetrator. If we continue to discipline Kim Hyun Sung like that, it will go against the rules. Kim Young Chul was so nervous that he was in a cold sweat but still dared to say the words to protect Kim Hyun Sung as well as protect himself. The principal, after listening to Kim Young Chul, expressed his opinion in response. However, the punishment is still unavoidable. Mr. Kim Young Chul. Kim Young Chul heard that Hyun Sung still had to be punished and immediately panicked and shouted, signaling principal. But Oh Dae-hwan did not give in and immediately roared. Teacher Kim Young Chul sat at the head of the table taking the leadership position. This principal was typing on the keyboard in his head to find a solution. Young Minho's parents will not let this matter go. In order to minimize their anger, he will have to severely discipline the student who caused this incident. If he wants to realize his dream of turning the school if this becomes a prestigious educational institute. Maintaining good relationships with powerful people is a must. After calculating the pros and cons in your heart, on the outside Oh Dae-hwan seriously announced, I will convene a review committee 1 week from now. In that meeting we will consider whether to discipline student Kim Hyun Sung. So I hope the teachers will control this incident and prevent it from happening. To prevent rumors from getting out. Besides, student Kim Hyun Sung will be suspended until the committee is convened. Please stay home and reflect on the harmful effects your behavior has caused. Go to school. Come back after a week and bring your parents here, perhaps already predicting the outcome of this meeting. Hyun Sung smiled calmly and stood up to accept the results that the principal give it. I understand. After walking out of the classroom, Kim Young Chul hurriedly called Hyun Sung back, caught up with Hyun Sung's steps. Kim Young Chul smiled flatteringly at him. The teacher did those things. What can I do? From the moment you hit Young Minho, things were no longer something I could just solve, no matter how hard I tried. So, damn it, no, can you hold back a little? If you just let it go, the opportunity for me to fix this will come, as long as it's still within my ability. To listen to him mumble his pleas not to reveal anything, when his bad things were exposed. Hyun Sung smirked and thought, Kim Young Chul is such an interesting guy. When was the last time you looked down on me and slapped me in the face? After all, he is a trash. Long ago threw away the honor of a teacher. I won his heart because this guy is a person who is willing to sacrifice everything of himself for others. Depending on the situation, from the beginning he was knowing that this matter cannot be resolved easily. On the outside, Hyun Sung seemed to sympathize and say, I know the teacher tried his best, making Kim Young Chul happy. So what happened? Not letting him be happy for long, he said with a cold face. But it seems like you knew from the beginning that Park Min Chul often bullied other students. Right, teacher, please remember this, until the day I graduate from this school. The only thing you can do to prevent me from revealing everything is to do your best to always make things favorable for me, regardless of the tricks you have to use. If you can't even do this, then of course not only you, but also Lee Min-young's life will be completely ruined by me. I swear, I won't break my promise. Being threatened by Hyun Sung with his weakness made Kim Young Chul go from stunned to finally bowing his head and accepting the fact that Hyun Sung held his weakness, and could not escape if he did not want to lose everything. Kim Young Chul sadly replied, okay, to Hyun Sung's requests. After correcting the homeroom teacher, Hyun Sung left with an extremely cold expression. Inside he was screaming, angry at not being able to kill Kim Young Chul. If he could, he would really like to completely destroy him. But he is not his true target. He can't just do that because it's okay to be angry and throw away such a useful piece at this time. At least you need him until you build a foundation at Bright Prospects High School. Even though he's just a teacher, but he is a person who doesn't care about the tricks he has to use to survive. A week from now, a moment where he thinks and plans revenge every day throughout over the past decade. Hyun-sung returned to the classroom, packed up his belongings and backpack, walked out of the classroom under the questioning and worried looks of the students in the class. As soon as that moment passed, then the principal, no, it's Oh Dae-hwan, what happens next, won't be like what you expect. As he walked out of school, Hyun-sung was thinking about everything that was about to happen. In an area with buildings close together, but looking quite old, the bright sunset shines through these buildings. After leaving school, Hyun-sung carried his school bag on his back, quietly walking step by step on the trash-filled street under the sunset sunlight towards his house. He thought as he walked, I can finally walk on this alley again. It has been so many years. Shabby apartment, no, your house's value is only about 50 million won. If it weren't for your parents' life insurance money, you could only live miserably on monthly salary. The time when she had to move here to arrange travel expenses for him. At that time he felt like the whole world had collapsed. Continuing to walk on the old cairn, step by step down the stairs, Hyun-sung calmly walked and observed the scene that was both familiar and seemingly far away. Continuing to remember the past. Since he was a child, he realized that this place was too strange. Shabby, but to be honest, now he was grateful that there was still a place where he could return. Opened the door to an apartment that looked quite empty and old, and as soon as he entered, Hyun-sung called out, Grandma, passed a room and only saw empty dishes on the table. And he immediately remembered, if he remembers correctly, every day at this time she is still working. It must be because this family, now is not the time to be sad and sentimental. It is a miracle that you have this opportunity. You are ready to take revenge. If possible, you should also find a better place to live. She and Kim Hyun-jin went to his room. Walking to his desk, he took off his backpack and hung it on the chair. Thinking, there's still a week until the council meeting. Immediately Hyun-sung opened a notebook. Now he had to plan the next step very meticulously and accurately. He took the pen and quickly wrote down the next steps that needed to be done. Within 2 years, we must devour the surrounding areas, create foundations and clean up their bases. To do this, for that, you need 3 conditions. The first condition is his personal strength. To defeat the school bullies, Hyun-sung needs to be strong enough to face them without faltering. And there is no way for him to train himself to do so. At that level, that person, Hyun-sung remembered someone who looked like a wrestler, and was holding a gold medal, perhaps winning some wrestling championship. If he could defeat that person, he will have a significant advantage in future battles. Second condition, current context. Future opponent is actively recruiting human resources. Hyun-sung writes down the names of Park's gang Min-chul, and to deal with those people, you need to find people who have the same goals as you. At the end of the day, those people all hold crucial roles, and you are just a first-year high school student. No matter how perfect a plan you have, you still don't have the strength to carry it out. Hyun-sung sat on the chair with his hands on his hands and looked at the notebook. Thinking about the best way to do it, he prioritized, find the people you need. Finally, the most important thing, the third condition is, this problem can be handled because you already have experience. It is a support. You need a support to carry out the plan so that nothing can stand in his way. When thinking about this, Hyun-sung's mind flashed through images of people who rely on money to work, like Young Min-ho's mother, Principal Oh Dae-hwan, and Kim Young-chul. The money-hungry people still have time to resolve the issue of your disciplinary discussion board. Having a supporter needs to be a top priority. Night sky transition. Frame. The current scene is at a police station. Inside the police work area, there is a man screaming, "Hey guys, do you know who I am? Do you know where I come from? If you don't know who I am, it means you're spies, not Daesun's people. Just because you're police, you think you can leave in peace after making me mad?" The person who was screaming and threatening the police was a tall and muscular man, dressed to look like he had a lot of money. His hair was dyed white. He didn't sit in the chair working with the police but stood up and cursed. What the hell? Come on. A policeman couldn't stand this man screaming anymore and frowned and said, "Uncle, please keep order." This man jumped up again when he heard someone call him uncle. Huh, uncle, are you calling me uncle? What the hell are you talking about? I'm a 35-year-old single man. This man jumped up and protested, pointing at himself. When he introduced himself, he was only 35 years old. It turned out that he was the eldest son of Go Chang-byom of the famous Myeongjin construction group in Daesan area. Perhaps this Go Chang-byom had a rather hot temper, so he cursing very hard. This damn guy cursed and angrily kicked the chair next to him to go to work, making the policemen on duty at the office look worried when this god was here. A sweating police officer thought, of course he must know him. Go Chang-byom, the eldest son of Myeongjin construction group. He is a dangerous person here in Daesan. We will be in trouble large if an error occurs. But now they are having to be more cautious because of the race to find a successor. It will be a problem if he becomes cautious. But now it's different. In this case, we have to follow law. There was nothing else to do. After the other side had uncontrolled actions, several police officers immediately stepped forward to hold Go Chang-byom's arms and shoulders. Because he was being held back, he angrily shouted and left. Maybe he knew he couldn't cause too much trouble during this sensitive period. So he tried to control his emotions and sat back down on the chair while cursing silently. Damn it, the police officer observed and continued thinking. This is better than being scrutinized by other departments if we let this matter go. Sat on the chair in front of the police desk murder. Go Chang-byom thought sadly. Since he was the first to hit them, he had no other choice. Those bastards were unspeakably weak, so they were taken to the hospital. What else should I do? Damn it, if I were in the south, knowing that my opponent would make a fuss about it. This bloody situation, the more I sit and think about it, the more angry Go Chang-byom becomes. Had to pull out his hair. Recently his father publicly announced the start of a succession race for himself and his younger brother. To choose someone capable enough to take over the business. In other words, to sit to his chair. I only have a high school diploma, and my younger brother, who graduated from a prestigious university, has been married to a famous woman in Daesan for 3 years. First, because of that she has an extremely strong position. I will have to endure it if she hears that I was involved in a fight and broke the law. The policeman sitting opposite Go Chang-byom asked coldly, Mr. Go Chang-byom, I know you are very upset right now, but this is your fault. You beat innocent people. We can't just ignore it like that. Hearing the police accuse him, but clearly he did not do so. Go Chang-byom shouted harshly and cursed. I said those guys hit me first. The police officer was also scared and quickly explained again. Yes, that's what you said, but there's no evidence. There's no CCTV in that area, and the victim's statements don't contradict anything. The situation doesn't seem to be the case. For his own benefit, Go Chang-byom had to sadly turn his face away and curse in his heart. Damn it, what is the succession race? Should I give up? Because he turned his head in another direction to think while asexual. He discovered that sitting in the row of seats behind him was a boy wearing a hoodie, which startled him. He stood up. Why is there a boy over there? Is he sitting there? Who else? Is our male lead, Kim Hyun-sung? He naturally smiled and pointed straight at Go Chang-byom and said, I came here to testify for that person. Who should I meet to say this? After meeting the police officer who is handling Go Chang-byom's case and providing evidence to this police officer, he was sweating while watching. The police officer held his hand first, asked, Why do you have this? Just like Go Chang-byom declared. Those people were the ones who beat him first. Everyone can see that those passersby were the person who stopped him when he was passing by. Thought about Go Chang-byom's situation. Outside, Hyun-sung calmly replied, I just happened to witness it when I passed by there. I thought there were many people in trouble because there was no CCTV. So I asked to borrow the black box of a car parked nearby and came here. Because the testimony from a minor like me was not convincing, he tried to avoid the fight by all means. But the others held him back and assaulted him. He had no choice but to defend himself. This was not his fault. He just is so strong that he can defeat them with just one blow. This is clearly self-defense. Sir, police officer, Hyun-sung speaks clearly, has complete evidence, gives the reason reasonable for the police. Sitting next to Hyun-sung listening to help him also made Go Chang-byom stunned. Then he smiled and praised, putting his arm with an expensive watch on Hyun-sung's shoulder in agreement. Is that right? Need correction. How can you say such nice words? This handsome boy seems to have been injected with a sedative. Go Chang-beom breathed a sigh of relief, howling in horror. Anyway, who is wrong? If you fight, you will get this. As long as there is evidence and witnesses, there is no way I can be in danger. Sitting next to Hyun-sung and observing Go Chang-beom's expression at the same time. Maybe this is your next middle position. After seeing the evidence and listening to the witnesses, the police officer sweat dropped and said, I understand. Let's stop the investigation here. And after the victims. No, the attackers were treated. I will arrange another meeting. I'm sorry, Mr. Go Chang-beom. I should have considered what you said more carefully. But when I saw those people bleeding profusely, I seem to have lost my ability to judge. The police officer politely apologized. But Go Chang-beom didn't seem to want to forgive. He grabbed the police officer's collar and brought him close to his face, frowning at the same time. Threaten. I don't need to know, but I will remember your face. From now on, you will live a truly peaceful life. Just wait. Both walked out of the police station. As he walked and talked, because Hyun-sung was a head shorter than Go Chang-beom, he continued to hold his shoulder and talk. Kid, really thank you. If it weren't for you, I would have been in big trouble. I'm Go Chang-beom. You never forget gratitude, you know. While saying thank you to Go Chang-beom, he tilted his face and put his hand in his pocket as if he wanted to get something. Sure enough, he pulled out a pile money. Take it, it's my heart. Hyun-sung calmly extended his hand to receive the money. He thanked him. Hyun-sung happily took the money and put it in his pocket. Surprising Go Chang-beom, a student his age should have hesitated to take it. A lot of money. This boy came here with a black box video. It's really extraordinary, Hyun-sung immediately said to him. Brother, I asked this out of curiosity. Do you think it's true? Is this an accident? Go Chang-beom confused. He asked, what do you mean? Hyun-sung said no more. I'll say it frankly, I know what kind of person you are. I'm in the succession race with my younger brother, his son, Go Chang-sok. He is the eldest son of the Myeongjin construction group. Go Chang-beom saw, seeing an unknown boy knowing his identity, making him cautious and serious. Who are you? Saw Go Chang-beom seen asked. Hyun-sung immediately raised his hands to act harmless. I think this incident was not accidental. And the same is true for having evidence to examine. Mr. Go Chang-sok, I think you what will I get? Hyun-sung recalls memories. In the past, Go Chang-sok, he was a famous person in Daesun. Thanks to that fame, I still remember a few things about his family. They lived like, and they're ending like that well. When he was lying in a coma on the hospital bed but his consciousness could still hear everything around him. At that time he lay down and listened to the news coming from the TV. Back to the present, Hyun-sung suggested, if you're really grateful, give me an hour, I promise, nothing will harm you, or your life. Mr. Go Chang-beom. Strange request from Hyun-sung was also full of charm that also made Go Chang-beom became serious. The space looks like it's in some kind of shop or cafe, with a crowd of customers standing around laughing and talking continuously. It turns out Hyun-sung asked for an hour of Go Chang-sok's time to take him to the cafe to talk more. He held the phone and looked like he was showing a video to Go Chang-beom. This is the original of the black box. I think I can prove it was self-defense by using the second half of the video, so I didn't show them the first half of this video. With one hand holding the phone showing the video and holding it up in front of him so he could see the video. The other hand holding a cup of coffee to drink. He calmly drank. Of course, what happened to Go Chang-sok? And it can definitely be proven that it was just a coincidence. 30 minutes before the accident, those three people gathered in front of the convenience store. Looking at it looked like the customers were just buying. But 30 minutes had passed and they still hadn't moved an inch, as if they were waiting for someone. On the phone screen showed a scene of Go Chang-sok walking. When he reached the position of the three men, they advanced. He continued to explain to him. But as soon as his brother arrived, they suddenly started fighting with him. Because they were told to fight, so they raised their faces and cursed. Go Chang-beom tried to stay calm, but in the end he was still the one to fight first. After speaking, he put the coffee cup in his hand on the table with a bang. As if leading, the guide continued to talk. It was true, when he said that Go Chang-sok must have doubts about this. The recent series of events are happening as if someone did it on purpose. Right when the next race you started, so bad things kept happening to you one after another. What if it was all arranged by the page to bring you down? Whether it was an accident or on purpose, one of two things, then the seriousness of the problem also makes a huge difference. Listening to Hyun Sung step by step lead out the doubt that existed in his heart. Go Chang-beom bowed his head and thought angrily. Actually, I've always suspected it, but I don't want to accept that my younger brother, who was raised well, could do such rotten things. Thought about it in his head and finished. Go Chang-sok wondered and asked Hyun Sung, so why are you telling me these things? The opposite person heard Go Chang-sok's question, why did I do that? Hyun Sung picked up a cup of coffee to sip, continuing to think in my heart. Myeongjin is only known in my hometown at this time. Not famous at all, but thanks to technology and solid investment capital, they have succeeded in the branding area. Apartment building. Remembers President Myeongjin's philosophy that you shouldn't play around with the house people are living in. They reduced the margin money and increased the success rate, then gave the name of built Myeongjin into the top of large corporations. But in the meantime, both sons were missing. Hyun Sung sat and remembered the past that he had seen. At that time Go Chang-sok was the one who started it. Color. Before that time, not long after that, an accident shook the whole land of Daesun. It was so big that even he, a person who was suffering from school violence, seemed not to know. You can be interested in something else and also know about it. The younger brother, aiming for the successor position, did everything, and as a result, his older brother, Go Chang-beom, discovered that his brother punched his little brother like that, and because of his brother's attack, Go Chang-sok became disabled forever. Not long after, Go Myung-jin said that both his sons were incompetent and useless. So he could not assign Myeongjin to build for them, and this caused quite a stir. And at that time, digging into the actions of the two sons became so popular that their pictures were posted as is a meme on the internet. Thanks to which Hyun Sung was able to remember and go to that place to look for evidence when Go Chang-beom was set up by his younger brother. Anyway, because of that, the president Go Myung-jin hired a professional manager, and this led to Myeongjin building up and becoming a famous corporation when assigned to the right people with management capabilities. Actually, if it's for the benefit of Myeongjin's construction, it would be better if it didn't change the outcome. The son Go Chang-beom is not evil in bringing down his competitors, but he is a bad guy, useless and has a rotten personality. The second son Go Chang-sok is quite a dirty guy. He will do anything regardless of morality just to achieve his goal. The right thing, the most common thing, is to give up both of these boys for the sake of building Myeongjin. But that's not important to Hyun Sung right now. To him, their usefulness in his work is much more important. Whether right or wrong, the butterfly effect will still happen when the future changes. Things like that are none of your business. Even if the future becomes worse due to choice, Hyun Sung doesn't care about himself. In this life, the important thing to him is revenge first, and then he will take care of his family. As if determined with his choice. Outside, Hyun Sung kept telling Go Chang-beom, I will help you, so you can take revenge on your younger brother Go Chang-sok, and then you, the eldest child in the family, can become the president of Myeong Construction Company. Famous Jin heard that Hyun Sung was just a kid, but he could open his mouth and help him compete for the company, making Go Chang-beom laugh. It was so funny. He was just a high school kid. 3. What can I do to help? Not let him look down on me. Hyun Sung continues to use tricks to lure him towards him. Surely someone is helping him in the race for position, inheritance. But you don't see why. The people who are supporting you only say sweet and flattering words in your ear, while a high school student like me can analyze and present plays. The version of his younger brother Go Chang-sok is clear as day. They are the messengers of Go Chang-sok. He seems to have awakened Go Chang-beom from his trance in this succession race, gradually becoming more serious when facing Hyun Sung. Hyun Sung continued to say, I don't need you to believe me. Just give me a chance to build trust between the two of us. Hyun Sung's suggestion really made Go Chang-beom confused and wondering what to do. In fact, he was a useless guy. Otherwise he wouldn't have been betrayed by his younger brother. Very nosy without knowing, until now walking out of the cafe where the two of them were sitting. Go Chang-beom stood outside smoking, thinking about Hyun Sung's analysis and suggestions. His head was about to explode. Then, stood holding a cigarette and thinking, when a coffee shop employee saw him smoking and came out. Sorry, this is a non-smoking area. Interrupted my mind. His relationship was in turmoil. Go Changbin's bad personality immediately flared up again. He angrily roared at that employee. Don't be mean to me and go away. Go away, or I will flatten you. This cafe. Go Changbin's anger made the cafe employee quite scared. He sadly turned around and walked in and said, I behaved wrongly, sitting in the coffee shop through the glass wall in front of him. Seeing the situation that had just happened, Hyun-sung thought to himself, Go Changbin is a very careful person because he is the eldest son of Myung-jin. And he is known as a bomb that should not be touched in Daesun. But you don't approach him because he is a decent person, but because he is a corrupt person, who is willing to kill you because of his son's power. Hyun-sung decided to choose him, because he was a man who was very suitable for his plan. Back outside the cafe, Go Changbin continued to smoke while softly saying, Go Chang-sok, you should have done it just right. He continued to think, what this kid said was not wrong. Compared to his younger brother, he had nothing at all. At this point it was clear that the position of heir would slip out of his reach. However, in this situation is it okay to trust a kid who is only 17 years old? And it's also the first time we meet. He remembered what his father once told him. Changbin, if you don't have the skills, then find someone with the skills to be by your side. Don't discriminate on their age, gender or status. I can keep the person with the skills I need by my side. I can lead and build Myung-jin. Go Changbin seems determined to choose. Throw the cigarette butt on the ground. Fuck, I don't care. And he walked back into the cafe coffee. Sat down in the chair opposite Hyun-sung. He immediately said, Hey, tell me the plan first. I will listen to it and then decide later. Change the scene to a mature man wearing eyeglasses. He was on the phone. So that's what happened. I don't know what the other end of the line reported. But he was so angry that he slammed the phone on the floor and cursed. You stupid idiot. Do you know how you failed like that? Everyone, it's all due to the old man's old-fashioned way of thinking. Why does he think that the eldest son will have the right to inherit? When in this era, you can guess his identity from his tone of voice. He is Go Changbin's younger brother and also his rival in winning the inheritance. His name is Go Chang-sok. Trying to control his frustration, he told himself, I have to calm down. I'm still on top. Like this, if nothing special happens, the heir position will be obvious. Suddenly there was a ringing sound from the landline phone on his desk, interrupting his train of thought. He picked up the phone. He went up to ask, What's going on? On the other end of the line quickly said there was a big problem. Madam had already entered Han Sung's office. He was startled when he heard his subordinate announce his wife's arrival. Fever and standing there pale. It seemed he also had a secret must hide. Returning to the conversation between Hyun-sung and Go Changbin, Hyun-sung presented his point of view to him. To win this race, he needed to be aware of the reality between you and Go Chang-sok. Who do you think is suitable for the successor position of Myung-jin construction? Of course it's Go Chang-sok. Unlike you, who can't seem to graduate from high school. Go Chang-sok studied business administration at a prestigious university. And when he married into a noble family as soon as he returned to Korea, he then instigated the people he recruited into the company to be fair in terms of inheritance. Thus a succession structure was formed. There was no coincidence from the beginning. Go Chang-sok made a lot of preparations to steal his brother's position. And as a result we have created a very high position for ourselves in the company. Other than the fact that you are the older brother, there is no part of you that can be better than Go Chang-sok. And on top of that you have encountered many accidents like this. Right. Who will support you? Even if I know these differences, I don't think you can win. Hearing Hyun-sung say that made Go Changbin not quite understand, so he asked again. What do you mean? What are you? Hyun-sung had to continue explaining. Even though Go Chang-sok is ahead of him in the race to appoint an heir, there is only one reason why President Go Myung-jin wants him to compete for it. And that is because of the eldest son's naive thinking, wants and desires to become the successor. That's why even he can compete for succession, even if the difference says that this competition is unnecessary. But President Go Myung-jin has not yet clearly decided on his future successor. In that case, what if, I'm just saying if possible, Go Chang-sok, who was superior to you in every way, fell to the bottom, in the same place as you are? Brother, think what will happen. If he also has skills, then who will President Myung-jin choose between the two? That's when the competition begins. When he is already on the same level as his opponent brother at that time. The only strength of the eldest son will be one class that he cannot turn the tables on. Hyun-sung is now like a devil coming out of hell, always luring people into greed. And he is step by step, slightly evoking greed. Greed, lust for power, and cruelty exists somewhere in a corner of Go Changbin's heart, aiming to make him an ally in his quest for revenge. In a certain hotel, that is. The person the two of you are paying attention to is Go Chang-sok, sitting there in shock. When he found out that his wife knew his mistress's whereabouts, his wife broke the door lock and beat the other mistress. This time, perhaps the support from his younger brother's noble wife's family will be shaken when he dares to commit adultery and is also arrested by his wife in battle. Returning to the cafe where the two were talking, Hyun-sung continued to propose a plan for Go Chang-beom to change and compete for power. He raised 3 fingers and said, if he really wants to win in this war for power, he will need 3 things. First is the background, and in this part he has already lost. When Go Chang-sok is busy forming an alliance with the powerful family in Daesan through his marriage. He is busy with creating useless relationships in the red light district. Picked up his cup of coffee and continued to mention the second thing. So what about the second thing? The second thing is reputation. I guess I don't need to explain any more about your Daesan's bastard appearance. And the last thing you need is the ability to potentially. While he was still indulging in girls and drinking, Go Chang-sok had proven his worth through the achievements he had achieved through business. Listen to all 3 things. I didn't get anything, which made Go Chang-beom, who didn't have much patience, turn away angrily. Hyun-sung continued, he didn't need to be special, because no matter what he did, it was okay, would also be better than what you did. From now on we will have to change the above 3 things. Hyun-sung raised a finger and said, let's go back to the first thing, which is my background. What should we do to change it? I can't marry into a powerful family like Go Chang-sok did right away. And there's no way I can have that power. Force can fall from the sky like that. So we have to think in a different way. Let's separate the relationship between him and his wife. Once the support from the bride's family, the key factor in his support disappears, then Go Chang-sok will return to the starting line, just like we are now, in a luxurious office, because it is on a high-rise building. The sunset sunlight shines everywhere. The whole room is through the glass wall, but the atmosphere in the room right now is quite quiet and stuffy. There are 3 people in the room. The 2 sons are standing in front of their father's desk, and the father is quiet, put his hands in his pockets and walked back and forth. At this time his younger brother Go Chang-sok spoke up. I'm sorry, Dad. I heard the middle son open his mouth. The father was the president of Myeongjin Construction. Mr. Go Myung-jin turned his head to look, then turned his head away without looking at his second son anymore. Go Chang-sok continued to bow and apologize. I'm very sorry, father, Mr. Go Myung-jin said angrily. You pathetic bastards. I have already contacted your father-in-law. That old guy of yours told him that I will teach you a lesson, so that things don't get to the point divorced. And your wife texted me to tell you that. She will stay away from you for a while. She will see how you will compensate her. Then figure it out. Continuing, hearing his father say the consequences that were happening made Go Chang-sok continuously sweat. He continued to bow low and apologize. I am extremely sorry. Mr. Go Myung-jin was so angry that he interrupted my son's apology. Sorry for my sandals. How many times do I have to tell you before you understand? If a man can't control the child in his pants, then the family will be ruined. And if you intend to play with bitches like that, then you should know better than to follow the example of that guy Chang-beom and play once and then leave. Mr. Go Myung-jin just cursed his second son but at the same time cursed his eldest son too. He scoffed at himself. It seems like I have completely failed in raising him right now. But luckily Chang-beom, why is this guy going in and out of the police station like that? He asked about his eldest son's case and at the same time he also guessed in his heart how this son would react. I'm sure he will act innocent again, just like it always does. Here we go back a bit to the time at the coffee shop, when we were both discussing plans. Go Chang-beom shouted, yes, that's an idea, that's a good idea. I'll have to go find Go Chang-sok's mistake and point it out to my old man. Right, Go Chang-sok is ruining our reputation. We can't trust the family business, leave that bastard alone. If my old man is disappointed in Go Chang-sok, then don't let him speak for too long with such childish ideas. Hyun-sung interrupted. No, that's not it. Isn't that a good idea? Hyun-sung immediately remembered that when he was lying in a coma on the bed, he vaguely heard about Go Myung-jin. Chairman Go Myung-jin knows everything that his two noble sons have been doing, and of course, he also knows that Go Chang-sok is planning to depose his brother. Go Chang-beom, the owner of the family. President Go Myung-jin said that it was also a way to make things go smoothly. That's why he did not stop Go Chang-sok's plan. So it seems that Mr. Go Myung-jin does not prioritize honesty as a criterion for choosing a successor. Even if his success's hidden life and work ethic are a bit dirty, he really wants someone who can really contribute to the growth of this company. Because after all, this company is his life's passion. But now Mr. Go Myung-jin's heart will be more inclined towards Go Chang-beom. Just because he started snitching on his actions. Is it wrong of Go Chang-sok? The answer is no. He would rather let a professional manager take charge of this, rather than handing it over to incompetent people. If the appearance is disappointing, Go Chang-sok's behavior continued like this, dragging his opponent down with him would not increase his chances of succeeding. After sitting and pondering for a while, Hyun-sung made a decision. Decided, Go Chang-beom needs to show an attitude worthy of the position of president. He must prove that he has completely changed. Thinking about this, Hyun-sung opened his mouth and said, "From now on, come on. I'll tell you about the plan." Continuing back to the moment when Mr. Go Myung-jin mentioned Go Chang-beom going in and out of the police station. The reaction of this son who shouldn't be this bad. Completely different reaction from the past. Not at all similar to his judgment of his son's reaction. Go Chang-beom bowed his head. "I'm sorry, I will be careful so that such things don't happen again. No matter what the reason is. It's my fault as the eldest child of Myeongjin Construction Company that such a mistake was allowed to happen." Go Chang-beom bowed his head and apologized, and showing off like that made his father and his younger brother extremely surprised with his new behavior. Now the dice of destiny have begun to roll. Who knows, the future of each person's destiny will be based on Hyun-sung's calculation. Go Chang-beom continued to bow his head and said, "From now on, you will pay attention to your position and behave properly. And father, please let me scold my younger brother more for what he did." Mr. Go Myung-jin looked happy at the change in his eldest son. He said, "I heard that they were the ones who messed with you. But you tried your best to avoid being careless. You did very well. You solved your problem yourself. I'm proud of you." I said words of encouragement and put my hand on Go Chang-beom's shoulder as if to give him encouragement. Mr. Go Myung-jin's actions made Go Chang-beom extremely surprised. Because in his memory up until now, your father has never said he was proud of you. After finishing talking, both boys walked out of their father's office. Go Chang-sok was still angry and cursed. Damn it, he didn't dare curse his brother to his face. So he just pointed his beard and scolded him. I wonder who the bastard told her about the hotel's location. But if I catch that bastard, I'll tear him to pieces. But it seems that right now Go Chang-beom is not paying attention to his younger brother's words. He is still immersed in his father's words of encouragement towards him. To me, good job, I'm proud. He kept muttering the same words from before. Good job, I'm proud. Good job, I'm proud. He was so happy that he couldn't control himself. I was trembling. My father, who has always been strict, recognized me. He even patted my shoulder. Praise yourself for doing so well. This thing, from now on, must continue, and after that. Go Chang-beom kept sinking into his thoughts. So his younger brother teased him and said a few words but didn't see him react. So he left first, after walking out of his father's place. Now in his car, sitting in the passenger seat was Hyun-sung. He immediately thanked him. Thanks to you, I was praised by my father. Now tell me, what do I have to do to become president? I will listen to everything you say. Sitting in the seat next to Hyun-sung smiled and said, "Don't get excited too bad. The only thing we did was pull Go Chang-sok back to the starting line in terms of support. To become president, you need to win the next 2 rounds. I have a plan, but it will be very difficult to implement right now. For now, join the company as a lowly employee and observe how things work there. I'll tell you when the time is right." Heard Hyun-sung inciting him to become a lowly employee. He immediately said in annoyance, "You want I work as a lowly employee? How could I? but thinking back to the sweet fruit that Hyun-sung gave him tonight. He immediately agreed. Okay, what do you tell me to do? Then I will do it all. Hyun-sung continued. And there is one more thing. Chang Byum asked again. Hyun-sung immediately smiled back. Yes. Do you still remember our conversation? In the coffee shop? No. We work together because we both have something from the other that we want to get from the other. In return for helping me, I promised to grant me a wish. Go Chang Byum didn't deny this. Of course. Is there anything I can't do for you? Hearing him make such an assurance, Hyun-sung happily replied. Good, then I'll say it directly. I want you to be the scene changer on the day of Hyun-sung's disciplinary discussion board hearing. Outside the stairs, there are two bodies and one woman and a man. The woman slapped the man standing opposite in the face. Then a harsh voice rang out. You damn scoundrel, you think I pumped you money just to hear these special excuses? Do you look at me like I'm joking? Do you like being fired? Turns out she is Young Minho's mother. Her name is Kim Soonia. Her face looked extremely harsh. She continued to curse. If you don't want to be insulted like this, you'd better fire the guy who dares to hit my son. Do you understand? Turns out the man who was beaten was the first-grade homeroom teacher, Kim Young-chul. Being threatened like that by her, this guy was discouraged and replied, Yes, mom. After speaking, she left with an annoyed look on her face. And Kim Young-chul stood there blankly. Because he was so humiliated, he was extremely angry, so he cursed silently. What does she think she can do? I don't want. The scene changes to the time when Kim Young-chul went to meet Hyun-sung before the discussion meeting. He was extremely worried, trying to convince Hyun-sung, please be a little more realistic. Humbly admitting your mistakes is the only way. Best to minimize your punishment. You can't solve this problem by being stubborn like that. Hyun-sung sat on the chair without worrying and calmly replied, Sir, you should understand that mother of Young Minho is putting pressure on you. But you use your head. Would you rather me expose your embezzled money or the fact that you have an affair with another woman? You have to understand one thing. If I die, then you will die too. Choose if you still want to live. Good luck. Hyun-sung finished speaking and left, leaving Kim Young-chul standing there in despair. In the room the meeting was about to have a discussion. Kim Young-chul opened the door and walked in. In a corner of the room, Principal Oh Dae-hwan was whispering to Young Minho's mother, Kim Soonia, have I ever disappointed her? Hope not. Then I will trust you with this matter. Principal Oh Dae-hwan sat at the table. Kim Young-chul held his head and groaned. I'm done. Either I become an adulterous husband or a corrupt teacher. There is no way I will have a place in Daesun anymore. What can I do with the money I saved? I didn't know what to do when someone entered the room and pulled chair and sit. Who came to surprise him? It was Hyun-sung and his parents. In the room the principal's voice was heard. We will start the trial now. First let us know in advance exactly what happened. The perpetrator's supervisor, Kim Young-chul, will present. In the room, Young Minho and his mother sat confidently listening to the verdict. Hearing the principal call his name, he ignored the risk and immediately slammed the table and stood up to say loudly. The reason for this incident was obvious. What else? The bullies of this school, including Young Minho, started fighting with his classmates first. This case is so stupid. When the attacker is considered the victim, it seems that Kim Young-chul has chosen to side with Hyun-sung. Because after all, he holds his vital points. Back before the meeting, the person who walked in with Hyun-sung was a tall man. None other than Hyun-sung's new ally, Go Chang Byum. Seeing him made Kim Young-chul surprised and thinking, who is that person sitting over there? I'm not mistaken, isn't that the person I met at the adult entertainment facility before? He quickly picked up his phone to look up to see if what he thought was correct, and the result seemed to be as he predicted, meaning that Kim Hyun-sung's guardian is the eldest son of the construction company, Myung-jin. When I looked at the list of attendees, I thought it was probably the same name. But Go Chang Byum is the most famous figure in this area. And Young Minho's parents can't compare. Again, how could someone like that come here as Kim Hyun-sung's guardian? He couldn't believe it to the point that he had to keep thinking, no way, what, that's for later. The important thing now is that I have to find a way to have a chance to survive. Besides me, no one here recognizes that person as Go Chang Byum. Now is the time for me to make a decision. Kim Young-chul immediately expressed his stance. He stood up and spoke loudly. This is a disgusting incident. The strange attacker was turned into a victim. Kim's eloquent words Young-chul shocked the principal. What is it, Mr. Kim Young-chul? Please explain in detail to avoid causing misunderstandings. When he heard the principal say that, he decided not to do it. So what if you do something? You'll do it until the end. I know I have received many complaints against 4 students of Park Min-chul's gang. Since the beginning of the school year, they have been bullying the students around them. I warned them strictly not to cause trouble anymore, but their behavior is getting worse day by day. A few days ago Park Min-chul also bullied Lee Young-min. Student Kim Hyun-sung, I couldn't bear to see that bullying scene anymore, so I said, don't do that, we are all students. Continue to play your role well. This teacher continued to say. Hyun-sung tried to stop it with all the holiness and warmth of a boy. But Park Min-chul invited a few friends to attack Hyun-sung. What do you think? If anyone wants to, if you harm everyone, do you still sit there waiting to die? What student Kim Hyun-sung did was legitimate defense. The same goes for Young Min-ho. Young Min-ho also is the key figure of Park Min-chul's gang. He encouraged his accomplices to attack, while Hyun-sung only fought in defense. Kim Hyun-sung also tried his best to avoid serious consequences. He had no choice but to do so. Of course I agree that his defense was a bit strong, but after considering the circumstances, and the reason, if only Kim Hyun-sung was punished, then we would be no different from a bunch of trashy adults. While covering up school violence, talking about this, Kim Young-chul bowed his head and ended, after my part, when I heard things that were not according to my own intentions. The principal immediately spoke harshly. Just now, what are you talking about? Don't push the issue too far. Mr. Kim Young-chul, we are discussing the terrible incident that first happened at Jinwoo School. That caused 4 students to go to the emergency room. The fact that the victims are the perpetrators of violence is unconfirmed information. And that is also the issue that we need to discuss again. Acts of violence cannot be justified by any reason. What is the reason? Moreover, we have never heard or met any good student being accused of such cruel behavior. Everyone in this room is a student of Jinwoo School. If punishment is required if a student does something wrong, my heart hurts like hell. But no matter what, punishment is necessary to prevent unfortunate events like this from happening again. This time, we need to identify the right target and punish him to set an example for other students, so that parents who entrust their children to Jinwoo School can return home with peace of mind. Right, sir? No. While talking about the trashy principal, he looked at Young Min-ho's mother and explained. He continued speaking. So first we will hear Young Min-ho's account of what happened. The testimony of the victim might be more accurate. Right. Student Young Min-ho started walking. When it was his turn to answer, he started to act trembling. What I experienced completely different from what the first grade teacher said. What I witnessed when entering first grade was Min-chul being beaten by Kim Hyun-sung. I asked my friends and found out that Kim Hyun-sung he still acts like that every day, bullying Min-chul whenever he feels like it. Teacher, can you call other witnesses to prove that it's true that Kim Hyun-sung was the one who attacked first? What you said, it's all the truth. There's no lie. I couldn't stand by and watch anymore when my friend got beaten up and ran to them. Young Min-ho said as he cried out in pain, covering his face with both hands. Seemed scared to continue, but Kim Hyun-sung did not hesitate and used the lock. No, but used a weapon to attack. Of course, seeing many people gathered, Kim Hyun-sung also felt scared. But Min-chul looked so miserable that we didn't have time to observe what Kim Hyun-sung's attitude was like at that time. I honestly don't understand why he kept blaming us. That's it. It must be true what happened. Teacher, you also remember that Kim Hyun-sung was punished before, right? At that time Kim Hyun-sung was reprimanded and called to the teacher's room. He fined me and attacked me in front of everyone, even though I didn't do anything outrageous. Is all of this really my fault? Looking down and telling lies to justify myself, himself, but no one knew how hideous the face hidden under those hands was. He smiled complacently, and when he accomplished his intention, he forced Hyun-sung to be severely punished. Seeing her son pretending to be scared, Young Min-ho's mother stood up, hugged her son, raised his face and shouted, "Everyone, look at my son's face. His face. I personally raised it very carefully, not daring to hurt it even a little bit. But now it has become like this. Can I bear it? At this point, she shouted loudly, "A cruel act of violence has appeared at this scary school. What should I do? This time it happened to my son, but I don't know if any child will experience the same in the future. We as parents must not ignore this. We must punish those delinquents." The parents sitting in the meeting room listening to Young Minho's agitated mother were also whispering to the people sitting next to them. "Besides, I think that's right." Another lady said that of course we can't forgive someone like this. "So we have to punish him. We have to punish him." Indeed, after saying those inciting words, made everyone attending the meeting take the side of Young Minho and his mother, making him extremely interested in. Changing the scene to a hospital. Park Min-chul was holding his phone playing a game. While playing, he asked questions. It must have started now. Right? Standing next to Cho Yong-taek smiled and replied, "Kim Hyun-sung is probably in a very difficult situation right now. You also know the influence of Young Minho's mother. I'm an extremely formidable mother. I could overthrow an entire school because of Minho. Do you think someone like her, after seeing her son's face like that, would let everything go easily?" Listening to his accomplice's analysis also made Park Min-chul, who was holding his phone playing, laugh happily. "You're right. If that bastard doesn't get kicked out of school, I'll let him know, until when he cries, kneels down and begs us to stop. If he gets kicked out, I will follow him and make him pay." His face is bruised and fried. Cho Yong-taek asked again, Can we get some compensation for the damage?" Sitting on the hospital bed next to him, Kang Chang-suk replied, "Of course. Let's at least ask for $1,000,000. If we have that amount of money, then I'll buy a motorbike and have a party in the park with some girls." "That would be great." Another guy would laugh and respond when he heard that. So of course there's nothing better than. Come back meeting room. The situation continued to be tense when with a bang, Kim Hyun-sung's guardian, Go Chang-beom, spoke up. "You bitch. Tell the truth about what happened. You miserable woman. Are you leading people to believe lies? Do you know anything about what happened? Don't you think that demon over there in human form is the cause of the whole incident? What happened?" Hearing the guardian speak so unpleasantly, the principal immediately scolded loudly. "What do you mean? Don't call my students devils." Not giving up, Go Chang-beom's aura also roared. "I wouldn't call him a devil if he wasn't a devil. I personally researched Park Min-chul's gang, and they bullied him, petty, and stealing things from other students. They are very famous, and so famous that no one around them knows them. Why do you want to cover for them? Are you stupid? Or did you get a fair price from them? I know the ambulance came to the school because Park Min-chul was injured, but all that happened was because Kim Hyun-sung was trying to defend himself. Worth it. That teacher also said we need to find the crux of the problem. You guys should be honest. When you were young, how did you still stand up after being bullied? Bastard. Saw someone else dare to call her precious son a thug." Young Minho's mother immediately jumped up and cursed. "Hey you bastard. Who are you calling a thug? Why is my son? Are you a thug again? Who are you? I heard that Kim Hyun-sung doesn't have parents. Who are you to dare talk to me like that?" He sneered and despised this motherfucker. Remembered what happened in the car. At that time Hyun-sung asked him to be his guardian. This request surprised Go Chang-beom. He immediately repeated, "Become his guardian. Why? Let me know if you need money." Hyun-sung calmly explained, "Yes, rather I need your wealth for the plan I'm carrying out. But it's not that simple, I just need money. I choose a simpler way like investment. For example, defeating an enemy who has everything. Then I must also have everything. Including one thing that I can got Go Chang-beom's information. It's power," he continued to explain. "I'll tell you the truth. I'm planning to resolve some incidents that happened in school. It's not simply an argument, small things often happen in schools. But if blown up enough, it can lead to legal problems. So every time that happens, I hope you will support me and help me solve it. Problem. If I have you behind me, at least in Daesun no one will dare to touch me. Mr. Go Chang-beom, if you agree then show me. I promise you what I do will help you get the chair of Myeongjin Construction Company or some other more difficult things." I heard Hyun-sung promise. Chang-beom reassured him, "No need to worry, I'm very happy, willing. You believe me, no matter what you do, no matter who you are, it won't be a problem." Returned to the classroom, Go Chang-beom bowed his head gently and asked again. "She asked me who. I am Hyun-sung's guardian and also the eldest son of Myeongjin Construction Group." The meeting continued. Go Chang-beom continued to talk. You guys don't know what you're talking about someone. Hyun-sung is my beloved brother. He's not the type to go around and cause trouble. But I heard that he had to explain himself to the review board. So I quit my job and came here. Chinul School is very famous in Daesun. So I hoped Hyun-sung could go to the school normally. And I also planned to sponsor the school in the name of Myeongjin Group. But I think maybe I should reconsider. I don't think my school is that bad. Sitting on a nearby chair, Young Minho's mother asked annoyedly, "Are you threatening?" Go Chang-beom, no, pay attention. I'm just telling the truth. What are you guys teaching? Isn't education for students to be good and develop their abilities? If that were the case, why would Hyun-sung, who fought with gangsters to save his friend, be punished? You guys ignored the fact that he was being bullied and punished him for resisting. Even though it was a bit violent. For the first time, you guys, where was he when he was beaten? Why did Chinul School ignore him when he was bullied? Should we just ignore him because he's poor? Or we'll get money from the bully's parents. Bullying, so let it be. Go Chang-beom constantly speaks the truth at this school. The arguments that everyone is applying from the principal to the teachers. Disdaining the poor, appreciating the rich and power. He continued to say, if that's the reason the school ignores this, I won't be gentle anymore. Bright Prospects High School of Daesun. Well, I will also do it to the end. In addition, out comes the bully who plays the victim and the people on Young Minho's side. I will make you guys not dare step foot in Daesun again. You can take it as a warning in advance. This is what call it justice. Go Chang-beom was extremely tyrannical when he threatened everyone publicly in the meeting room, immediately making everyone in the room afraid of Go Chang-beom's threat. So they had to discuss it with the people around. After knowing the identity of Hyun-sung's guardian, the principal immediately panicked when he encountered a high-status person like Chang-beom. He had to think in his head and calculate what to do. What are you doing? That's the son of Myeongjin Construction Corporation. Are you two relatives? Since when? Isn't Kim Hyun-sung an orphan? Isn't he living with his grandmother and younger brother? If I side with Young Minho, I will never be able to have a relationship with Myeongjin Group again. I will be thrown out of Daesun City just because I resisted Go Chang-beom's kind of warning. But what if I draw clear boundaries with Young Minho? This is an opportunity to impress Myeongjin. If I can get Myeongjin to sponsor the school, Chinul School will definitely become the best school in this country. Even if you are called a traitor or stupid. If you think about the future of Chinul School, there is nothing to wonder about. Coming here after calculating the pros and cons of taking sides, this trash principal immediately turned around and continued. In fact, I heard rumors that there was a group bullying other students since the beginning of the school year. If the rumors are true, Young Minho is the leader. And heard it. The principal's betrayal made Young Minho's mother angrily scream loudly, signaling him to look again. The principal, he pretended not to see, immediately said, "That is, no, this is not the time for mother to be in trouble." Speaking up. I don't say this to avoid responsibility, but I'm just saying the truth is before our eyes. The review board is the place to make decisions based on the truth. Kim Hyun-sung is one of the best students in the principal. He must have a good reason for what he did, so we should listen to student Kim Hyun-sung's explanation first. Hear him remind to me. Hyun-sung lowered his head and thought. They finally asked me. When no one has my back, no one listens to me. If someone listened to me like that in my previous life, I wouldn't have died like that. Hyun-sung immediately explained to everyone. He told many teachers about Park Min-cheol's group beating other students. Every time I told the teachers, they said the same thing. It was, Park Min-cheol, you said, is not the person who would do that. Are you sure you guys are joking? And Park Min-cheol pretended to be obedient and replied, of course. The teacher ignored the matter and immediately said, don't go too far, grow up and try to solve your own problems. At one point the teacher said to his cousin, we'll find a solution, but they never get to the core of the problem. And if they do, they just scold them gently, creating opportunities for them to do bad things without caring about anything. Happened. Yes, I hit Young Minho and I also hit Park Min-cheol and the others in the same group. But why am I sitting here? Just because I hit it once, yeah. Or because I was too handsy? No, because adults thought I had no power. Even when I was bullied and fell from the roof. If I didn't have power, it would be covered up. Yes, the law for the rich and the poor. That is the truth that cannot be changed. I will take advantage of this truth. Hyun-sung continued, there is a gang that has been bullying in school until now. Please punish them first. Otherwise I will publish information about this case to the outside and everyone will know the truth about Jinwoo School and Jinwoo School will become Daesun's disgrace. The only way to shut me up is final verdict. Seeing that the situation was not good, Young Minho's mother jumped up to protect her son. I will not let my son be judged like that. I will not allow. Then she walked to the corner room away from everyone and took out the phone to call her husband. You son of a bitch. Just wait there. I called my husband. On the other end of the line replied. What's going on? Heard my husband's voice, she immediately said. Brother, listen, I told you, the review board was established because of Minho's case. These people are blaming Minho, teacher Kim Young-chul and principal Dae Hwan. They're all just for the sponsorship money of that bastard. The eldest son of the Myeong-jin group. This bastard, he dares to ignore our relationships. Where are you? Can you come here now? I've come to show them who I am. On the other end of the line her husband asked again. So Go Chang-beom is the main sponsor? She asked calmly again. What? You know him. Come here quickly and let this bastard. Before she could finish her sentence, her husband got mad and shouted into the phone. How dare she do that to our eldest son? Myeong-jin group. Do you want our whole family to die? Go home right away. Whether Minho violates it or not, just let him be punished and go home right away. No one knows what the two of them talked about next. That night after the meeting ended, Hyun-sung went back to his old house and lay on the bed with his arms up and bored. Remembering, we decided that student Kim Hyun-sung was punished for 100 hours volunteered to cause school violence, while 4 other students including Young Minho were forced to drop out of school. After hearing the disciplinary results, Young Minho is now used to rich people's habits and has no trouble. Now, after learning that he was the one forced to drop out of school instead of Hyun-sung, he couldn't accept it for a moment. So at that moment Hyun-sung called his name again. He turned around and saw his enemy. So he screamed and ran to punch Hyun-sung. It's all you son of a bitch. Suddenly a hand grabbed Hyun-sung's arm and wanted to punch Hyun-sung. When he saw who it was, he couldn't believe it and asked. His mother then ordered Hyun-sung to kneel down and beg. Afraid of hearing wrongly, Young Minho asked in disbelief. What? Hyun-sung happily repeated again. I said kneel down and beg. Seeing that he was humiliated, Young Minho angrily shouted. Why did I have to do that? I was forced to drop out of school. Why do I have to kneel again? Hyun-sung smiled contemptuously and said. You should ask your mother if you should kneel or not. Hyun-sung threatened him. You should try to make me happy. Maybe I will end your punishment. Then his mother immediately said. Minho knelt down and begged. He couldn't believe that his mother said he did that. He asked harshly, why did she do that? But his mother seemed to be afraid of something and roared at him. Hurry up. Seeing her react like that, Young Minho had to kneel down as Hyun-sung said. I'm sorry, I won't do that again. Looking at this scene, he remembered the past. His grandmother also had to kneel like that in front of Young Minho's mother in a humble way and apologize. Now the situation has turned around. The person kneeling is her precious son. As if toying with him, Hyun-sung leaned down and said in his ear, what should I do now? Maybe this is not enough to make me feel better. So you should pray, because your future will only be black from now on. Just like that the review is over and I want to move on one step closer. The leader of the organization was lying down when the phone above his head vibrated. Hyun-sung picked up the phone and opened it to see a message that said Hyun-sung. This is Park Min-chul. Can I meet you? Please meet me just once. You continue to think about how to approach the person who pushed you to death in the past. Hyun-sung slowly walking to where there are electric lights and benches in the park. Next to him is Park Min-chul standing next to. Park Min-chul has countless wounds on his face that have been bandaged. And he is also wearing clothes. Patient. He tried to smile and raised his hand to say hello. You're here. Thank you very much. Hyun-sung frowned, said in a low voice. Let's skip the greeting and get to the point. Park Min-chul looked down. His eyes looked the other way and shyly said oh, okay Hyun-sung. He clenched his palm, straining it out each word. Bullying the other kids and tried to hit you that day. It was my fault. It was my childishness that didn't think about the pain you guys had to endure. Hyun-sung looked straight at him with interest. Park Min-chul continued to ask, Sorry, after being in the hospital for a week, I accepted all punishments from the disciplinary council. I promise not to do that again. He finally raised his face to face Hyun Sung's eyes. His face full of bandaged wounds wrinkled slightly and said nervously, "So can you let this matter go?" Before Hyun Sung could say anything, he kept trying to explain, trying to convince him. I asked the teacher and they said if you agree, I won't be expelled. Young Minho followed his family in. Accept the punishment, so we can't change our decision anymore. Park Min-cheol's eyes showed panic and confusion, but he still tried to make convincing words. But he said he could sponsor us. He could sponsor us. Do I have a chance? If I get kicked out, our lives will be over. He walked over and put his hands on his shoulders, softly saying, "Please just this once. I will be the buffalo. Be your horse. Whether you go to the mountain or to the sea fire, I will do everything you want so." Hands with countless scratches placed on Hyun Sung's shoulders with a plea. "Please, you still have no feelings." Hyun Sung thought. Expelled from school, it must be very surprising, even when acting like a murderer in front of the kids. They are only 17 years old. They are just students in the unknown future. Park Min-cheol tensed, looking forward to Hyun Sung's answer. While he was still there thinking, they will not be able to find a school in this Daesan area that will accommodate them. Hyun Sung's eyes are still very sharp, having been expelled and involved in school violence. They are sure that their lives will end. Then suddenly Park Min-cheol spoke again, saying this puts us in danger. He turned his face to the other side, while placing his hands on Hyun Sung's shoulders, softly said, "But someone ordered us to bully you. That person is." Before he could finish, "You interrupted." "I know." Hyun Sung's answer made Park Min-cheol glare in surprise. Hyun Sung's whole body exuded murderous intent. Excitedly, he grabbed Park Min-cheol's arm, placing it on his shoulder, glared at him and said, "Let me tell you who it is." And then he remembered that in the past, the sound of the news rang out. Shocking news. Organization accepts responsibility. School violence cases were revealed. The news was in a blood-stained letter from a bullied student. A few years after I was in a coma, a student who was also bullied like me had jumped off a building. The suicide note left behind told the whole truth. Golden Crickle is a famous school organization in Gangnam. The center members did not know. Even in the future I saw. The director of Golden Crickle has seen students traumatized by school violence road, and had a feeling that this would be a profitable business. He recruited bullies and brats with equal strength, and looked for students with rich parents and power, offer to protect their children while they are in school, a system in which the students they manage will receive excellent rankings. If members of that group are demoted by other students, who recruited students will be mobilized and the top students eliminated. This thought kept repeating in Hyun Sung's head. If that member was dropped in rank by other students, the recruiting students would be mobilized and remove the top student. Back to the present. Hyun Sung was holding Park Min-cheol's arm tightly and lifting it away from him. He thought that in the future, he would see that the members of the outer circle of Golden Crickle had been discovered. But not long after that they had fallen into oblivion. The identities of the two members of Golden Crickle are not revealed at the end. Hyun Sung's eyes widened, shining with blood to complete his revenge on you who put me in hell. I must investigate the Golden Crickle and destroy it. Hyun Sung looked straight in the face. Park Min-cheol said. It was the Golden Crickle, but there was something very strange. He continued to say, to Park Min-cheol's surprise. The Golden Crickle had its base in Seoul and Gyeonggi-do. Its power could not reach to this Daesan. Okay. Who and how did they hire you? Park Min-cheol was silent for a long time, then decided to speak. It's senior Shin Yoon-min. Hyun Sung opened his eyes wide in surprise. Shin Yoon-min, he whispered. I thought, Shin Yoon-min is the third year of my school, a delinquent who is invading the school. He is one of the members of Golden Crickle according to Hyun Sung's guess. I didn't think he was a member of Golden Crickle, because the Golden Crickle always gives orders. They received it from other places and then from the soldiers. Hyun Sung frowned, unable to hide his shock. Shin Yoon-min couldn't find his own customers, but at least he could contact Golden Crickle. I could get Golden Crickle out through him, but Hyun Sung recalled Shin Yoon-min's illustrious reputation in the ring. Shin Yoon-min would not spit out information easily, and he was so strong that he could debut as a professional MMA athlete in the future. If I attack him with this little skill, I will be completely defeated. Now I have to find a way to deal with this guy first. Thinking, Hyun-sung slowly opened his mouth. So you want my forgiveness, right? You grabbed Park Min-cheol's collar. He immediately felt scared and stammered. Hyun-sung. Hyun-sung now looked extremely scary. Murderous aura radiating around him. Around. Many layers of emotions overlapped even when in a coma. He remembered himself before. His grandmother had to kneel down and apologize to them for forgiveness. Sorry, I didn't allow. Hyun-sung leaned closer Park Min-cheol's face. Every threat said, I will let you know clearly from now on. What will happen every time we meet? Hyun-sung mercilessly hit Park Min-cheol in the face with a strong blow. You continuously hit him in the face. Park Min-cheol was in so much pain that his eyes went white. His mouth gaped open. Park Min-cheol in his previous life. He became a crazy father. Hyun-sung grabbed his collar, his penis jerked up. So did Young Minho and the others. They're all successful and I can't believe how well they live when it comes to. A punch to Park Min-cheol's face. Now their hands are no longer moving. Maybe their karma did this. I hope you guys will. Hyun-sung still aggressively hit Park Min-cheol in the face mercilessly. This injury came the next morning in class. Everyone was whispering to each other. Really crazy that guy punched him with a lock key. Young Minho, he was so scared there was nothing he could do. When I saw Kim Hyun-sung fighting back, I thought he couldn't fight. There were also people who wondered, why did Hyun-sung become like that? He wasn't like that before. A classmate, others put their hands on his shoulders. People who don't look bad turn into demons. They are the craziest when they get angry. They don't know how to control it. At this time, Kim Hyun-sung opened the classroom door. He slowly walked back to his seat. Hyun-sung put his bag on the table, slowly sat down, was resting his chin on his hand and looking out the window. When a voice came from behind. Hey, thank you. Hyun-sung turned around and saw the fat boy. He continued to say, I heard what happened. Park Min-cheol and the others were expelled. It's all thanks to you. Just say what you need. I'll give it to you. Everything you need. So just say it. After Hyun-sung heard it, he was silent and said nothing. The other classmates were also silent and listened to the situation. He started talking. How come you have nothing to do with me? Man, why did you come to thank me when you heard the news? He continued to speak, while the fat boy's face became pale. Scared. You were too scared to testify before. And now you thank me. Hyun-sung grimaced fiercely, grinding his teeth in discomfort. Tell him, warn you, I don't care what the fuck happens to you. So go away. I don't want to see your bitch face around here. Right now on the school's rooftop. Someone was asking Shin Yun-min as he was climbing down from the railing. What are you going to do from now on? Park Min-cheol and the others have been chased away. Our plan is ruined. He spat water foam on the extinguished drugs. Yeah. Shin Yun-min grimaced. Damn. He raised his hand and said contemptuously. He didn't have a back and all that shit. And they went and beat that guy. So what? Found out that behind the scenes that guy is the eldest son of Myeongjin Construction Group. He stepped on the cigarette butts. Now things are like this, no one can touch Kim Hyun-sung anymore. Who in Daesun can you win against Myeongjin Group? That guy waved his hand back and forth and asked Shin Yun-min. Have you given up? He comfortably leaned on the railing. No. He said slowly. The situation was dire. It's too much, but it's still possible to save. The high level is clear. Isn't it? We now have a chance to make more money. Shin Yun-min sinisterly clenched her fist. We can make 10,000 won. Just by taking care of one student. We have to thank them for this opportunity. He glared and asked, so who is the top first year? Tell him to drag his butt to this rooftop right now. In Kim Hyun-sung's class, the teacher was lecturing enthusiastically. And he focused and listened attentively. To be able to win the golden crickle, he had to study better. Their goal was to be students who stood out from other members. Hyun-sung focuses on writing articles. If I have good rankings, golden crickle will be forced to take action. He thought thoughtfully. To the members, I am like a thorn in the side. I already have something good grades since high school. So the reason Park Min-cheol and the other group targeted him was because a member ordered Shin Yun-min, Hyun-sung to look at the students in the classroom. In this class or not. At this school, the real culprit is hiding. The one who wants me to disappear. So that he can climb up to my position. He observed the students in the class carefully. I had a few subjects in mind, but I shouldn't act without evidence. What I need to do now is prepare for situations that may happen in the future. After school in the afternoon, Hyun-sung was walking on the street. He stopped in front of a small shop. Young Do-chol, Korea's first MMA fighter, became the UFL world champion, opened the door and thought, now he is just a remnant of the past that no one cared about anymore. Hyun-sung walked in and looked around. This place was not as rundown as imagined. Suddenly a voice rang out, welcoming. A man wearing blue gym clothes, with quite long hair, was standing to greet him. Are you here to register? Hyun-sung replied, yes, he is. He smiled, full body radiating murderous aura. I want to become good at fighting. My missing piece. Shin Yoon-min stood on the rooftop with his accomplices waiting for the strongest man. As soon as he arrived, he was attacked. He asked, your name is Jinwoo, isn't he? Sweat nodded. Chinul High School, first year, Park Jinwoo. He happily praised. You kid has a good figure. I think you said you used to be an errand boy. Shin Yoon-min touched Jinwoo's face. I need help. Among the boys there is a guy named Kim Hyun-sung. He smiled mischievously and said, turn him into a mentally retarded guy, so he can ever act like a normal human being, okay? On Hyun-sung's side, Do-chol invited him into the room to sit. He kept rummaging through the bags and saying, you seem to be a high school student. You've come to the right place. He smiled happily. Let me tell you a little about our gym. There is physical education, stress reduction exercises, or even diet improvement. Gym Young Do-chol, Director Young Do-chol, we are proud to satisfy 100% of our customers. The winning fee will be 151. No red dirt. Young Do-chol turned his back to Hyun-sung and continued, I will teach you like a coach. Personal trainer. Hyun-sung was thinking because he had a beard so it was a bit hard to recognize. But I'm sure he was Young Do-chol, former UFL champion. Young Do-chol sat down and crossed his arms. He happily asked Hyun-sung with his hands in front of his chest. So, what encouraged you to come to the gym? I want to learn how to fight better. Hyun-sung exudes dangerous murderous aura, to the extent that I can trample on all the bastards who bullied me. Young Do-chol looked serious when he heard this. The smile on his lips had long since disappeared. Thought about it, Young Do-chol said, practice room is not the place to teach you how to fight. If you come to the gym, hey, just because you want to beat someone, then I can't accept you. Young Do-chol still tried to advise Hyun-sung. You just need to exercise a little. Then those guys being ugly won't bully you. In that case, why don't you practice to improve your body? Hyun-sung said nothing but glared at him. The first Korean to win the UFL. Young Do-chol. He continued to think, there is the reason why he can live happily with his reputation, but is satisfied with just managing a small gym. In this rural place, banned substances. In a drug test before his third title defense, anabolic steroids were discovered. Anabolic steroids are stimulant banned in sports. It helps strengthen muscles in a short time. Image Young Do-chol stood helplessly in front of the media and admitted. Young Do-chol admitted his mistake, and without any excuses, his career ended like that. But that's none of my business, because what I'm aiming for is Young's other talent, Do-chol. The news reported at that time. He was the athlete who brought Korea to the second UFL title tournament. Right, athlete Kim Myol, you became the top boxer in just 1 year. Within a few years, since he debuted and became famous, recently confessed a shocking truth, and now what he said. Kim Myol admitted, I'm not a genius at all. On the contrary, I have no talent. Regardless, the reason why I can stand in this position is all thanks to the special training method of director Young Do-chol, my teacher. Back to the present, Hyun-sung sat hunched forward, hands clasped together, looking straight at Young Do-chol. Young Do-chol, who turned a third-rate fighter into a top athlete in Korea. If I can console this person, I can definitely lay a solid foundation for my own strength. Thinking about it, Hyun-sung suddenly started to speak. During his time as an athlete, in order to win against his opponents, he did every method that Young Do-chol's face looked like. Started to get serious when Hyun-sung continued. I will also do everything to achieve my goal. So what's the problem? Young Do-chol's face started to darken. He said in a low voice, that's a mistake I made. Simply because I'm an idiot. It's 7:42, and Young Do-chol started talking about regret. If I could turn back time, I wouldn't do it again, never again. I've been regretting it all this time. Young Do-chol said as he stood up from his chair. If you make a stupid choice just because of the immediate result, you can't escape a bad situation like me. He turned around and glanced at Hyun-sung. Go home, I can't accept you. Young Do-chol turned his back on you. If you go to the gym, do whatever you want, defeat the bullies. Your end can only be in some prison. Hyun-sung was sitting in the chair looking at that back and said, 100 million. I will give you 100 million. He continued to say, I know you really need money right now. If you promise to teach me, I will transfer that money to you within 1 day. Young Do-chol turned around in surprise. Hyun-sung continued, I will transfer it as a deposit. So even if I give up halfway, you won't lose anything. Young-chon stiffened. Side effects of medicine, social abandonment, being abandoned, eliminated from the mixed martial arts ring. Hyun-sung continued to say, he must have predicted everything. But he still chose to use drugs. After all, it was the result of his own choice. The same thing happened to me. Hyun-sung said to Young Do-chol's surprise. Maybe I will go around fighting after learning how to fight from you. And the consequences of that could be serious, more important than I thought. Hyun-sung laughed. I could end up becoming a cripple, or locked up in a juvenile detention center, and going in and out of prison for the rest of my life. But I was prepared for that situation, so I'm here. He glared. Blood streaks were clearly visible, like when he went back to using drugs. I'm so desperate. I need brother. Young Do-chol looked at the high school youth in front of him in shock. Hyun-sung's eyes shone with seriousness and determination. Then Young Do-chol spoke up. You should never touch the medicine. He turned around. I put my hand on the banned substance. But I won't stand still and let a child like you make the same mistake as I did. Young Do-chol continued to say, I will just help you, by teaching you. Hyun-sung smiled. Sounds good. Young Do-chol interrupted, holding the door handle. I didn't finish speaking. He turned towards Hyun-sung and glared. Up, let's go to the arena. If you can win at least 1 round, then I will recognize your will and accept your request. Counting that day, Mrs. Hyun-sung's voice rang out in the night. No, child, her poor little girl. His grandmother ran out in panic. What happened? Hyun-sung's body was covered in bruises. His grandmother was so worried about him that she was shaking and crying. Who did this to you? What bastard would dare to do this? Your grandmother trembled and reached out to touch Hyun-sung's body, telling her, she will teach you a good lesson. You try to comfort her. She's fine. She angrily said, no, it's not okay. Look at me. I'm fine. What do you mean? Young Do-chol's side was drinking a glass of wine. He mumbled to himself, Do-chol, you are the worst. Young Do-chol took out his phone. In the phone was the text message he sent to Hyun-sung. Forget about accepting your request. Young Do-chol remembered just now. Think again. I won't joke. He said slowly, I met many types of people when I was playing professional sports. There were many criminals, and even students, just like you came to see me. People who don't want to be beaten in school anymore. Young Do-chol started to take a defensive stance when he saw Hyun-sung enter the ring. No matter what his purpose was, that's it, are just empty words. Because once you step into this octagonal ring, purpose or will do not exist anymore. He warmed up and looked at Hyun-sung. The kids with confidence, because they know a little bit of fighting, then they will have to kneel and beg. After only being hit a few times on the chin, he continued to explain, 3 minutes per round, without using ground fighting techniques. Forget everything and try to pass the first round. Young Do-chol strongly punched his hands together. If you can prove that your will is unbreakable, then I will train you. You become the strongest. He started to take a defensive stance. Are you going to try? Hyun-sung decided. Yes, I will try. Then be careful. He looked at Hyun-sung's defensive stance, thinking his stance was really fragile, but he glared. He didn't show any fear. Let's see if anything would change after he was hit. Young Do-chol immediately raised his hand to punch. Hyun-sung tried to block it with his hand. He still thought, I can block it, but just a second later the punch hit him straight in the face. Hyun-sung was punched, flying backwards. Blood sprayed into the air. With just one blow, Hyun-sung flew into the protective fence of the octagon. Hyun-sung collapsed immediately. He glared at Young Do-chol, stood up. He glared and said, it's only been 10 seconds. Hyun-sung stood with his face covered in blood. He was still trying to defend against Young Do-chol's attack. Before he could even breathe, he was right in front of his eyes. His arm was raised ready to punch. The left and right punches were continuously given. Hyun-sung could only hold his head. He tried to resist the blows as his body gradually turned to purple due to taking too many hits from him. The speed and strength were amazing. Just one hit and I would be done. Then suddenly the punch stopped in Hyun-sung's surprise. Why did he stop again? Before he could finish thinking, a low kick hit his leg. Hyun-sung screamed in pain and leaned back. He lost his balance and fell to the ground immediately. After just calculating the blow, looking at Hyun-sung's trembling form trying his best to stand up, Young Do-chol just glanced and said, "It's not too late to stop." Hyun-sung continued to trembling, raising his fist close to his face to create a defensive position. He placed his hands on his legs and one side of the octagon's fence, stood glaring at Young Do-chol and said, "3 more minutes. Still not over. The clock is still running backwards, counting every second that passes. 2 minutes 14 seconds. Young Do-chol still approaches to attack. He mercilessly punches left, then punches left, then punches right, then straight punch, then hook punch. Hyun-sung used his hand to shield his face from Young Do-chol's blows. He breathed heavily thinking, "I won't be able to stand this anymore. Lost. Just one chance, no matter how small." Hyun-sung used all his strength to throw a number 2 attack to the left. But Young Do-chol quickly moved to dodge. Immediately after, the punch appeared under his chin, making Hyun-sung unable to react in time. As soon as it touched his face, Hyun-sung immediately spat blood, tilted his face back. He fell back in pain, his eyes wide open. Hyun-sung was lying down after that blow. Young Do-chol looked towards the countdown timer. "It's over. Has it been a minute yet? He's been able to endure it for a while. It's because of me. Be gentle so the wound won't be too serious." Suddenly it was he who contradicted what he had just said. No, worrying about the injury was just an excuse. What he was really thinking suddenly appeared, wrapped around his mind. "I tried to return, but he passed the test. I tried again, just like that. I made excuses for myself again." The special red text that appeared behind all the main reasons was 100 million. Young Do-chol stood still. "But I can't throw away my ego. For someone who can't even stand it. So just lie there." While Young Do-chol's back is turned, Hyun-sung stood up again clinging to the iron fence. The sound of standing still made Young Do-chol surprised. He stood up with a bloody face, breathing heavily. He wasn't done yet. Hyun-sung smirked, continued walking. Young Do-chol turned around in surprise, him with a face full of excitement and trying hard to hold on. Young Do-chol looked straight into Hyun's eyes-sung, a pair of eyes showing determination. Saw Hyun-sung take a defensive stance again. Young Do-chol silently assessed, "This kid's killing intent is not just a code. I have to deal with him before I went too far." He glared threateningly, then took a defensive stance. "Then, I lost patience. From now on I won't hold back anymore. Remember." Young Do-chol hit his head repeatedly. Hyun-sung, and still the same. He continued to block, but Young Do-chol's punch stopped. Hyun-sung was confused. His punch stopped again, like last time. Hyun-sung started to kneel down to try to stand. "I won't be hit twice." But what was greeted was a punch in the ribs. Hyun-sung was in so much pain that he screamed loudly. He fell to the ground in pain and trembling. Young Do-chol said coldly, "You have 1 minute and 30 seconds left. If you don't get up within 15 seconds, I will consider this the end." Hyun-sung, his whole body trembled. He was shocked to discover that he needed to stand up. But his body didn't listen. Hyun-sung tried to stand up, but his body fell to the side helplessly. Could he lie down? Couldn't stand up. Young Do-chol continued to face the other direction. That was a heavy blow. This pain can't just be endured. Give up and go home, kid. Hyun-sung still tried to hold his hands up. Get up. He frantically shouted, wake up now. Hyun-sung gritted his teeth. His eyes also flashed red. You idiot. You've been waiting for this moment. You remember when you were in the hospital. You've been waiting for this for 10 years of kissing fascinated. Praying to turn back time over and over again. He remembered how painful his grandmother was at that time. He prayed for someone to kill him but couldn't. Stood up. The image of yourself lying in bed keeps appearing in Hyun-sung's mind. If you don't want history to repeat. The helpless tears at that time. Stand up now. Hyun-sung can already stand up with my iron will. As long as I want revenge. I don't care if I become a devil or not. So until I kill those bastards. I can't bear to lose. You right now firmly took a stance against Young Do-chol. It made him sweat. He thought as he put on his gloves. That punch just now was not something a professional boxer could withstand. Young Do-chol glared at Hyun-sung. He looked at Hyun-sung, who was breathing heavily in front of him. What the hell is that? He thought, if someone like him becomes strong enough to fight together, his life will be ruined. Wearing gloves, Young Do-chol thought. I understand your despair, but I can't let you live a life full of regret like me. I will commit suicide. Stopped him here. With that thought, Young Do-chol moved quickly to approach Hyun-sung. He continued to raise his hand and gritted his teeth to endure the blow. A blow to Hyun-sung's face. Hearing this, he immediately fell back. Nosebleed continued to spurt out. Endure. Young Do-chol this time had no intention of letting him continue to move forward. Endure it. Followed by the blows to the face. The clock started counting down to 1 minute even with a broken nose. Hyun-sung continued to endure attacks. All broken teeth. The time was only 5 or a few seconds left. Each punch continues to fall. Endure it no matter what. Countdown timer has 12 seconds left. Hyun-sung was still standing there trying to stand firm, while his body was shaking. His breathing was no longer stable. It became intermittent and urgent. Young Do-chol glared at him. A direct blow to the stomach made Hyun-sung unable to react in time. He slammed his back against the iron mesh. Young Do-chol stepped forward with a punch and blazing killing intent. Just as the punch was about to touch in Hyun-sung's face, the clock rang to announce that the battle was over. Young Do-chol also stopped his hand. He angrily lowered his hand. What a bitch. Young Do-chol threw his gloves aside. You're good at taking a beating. He walked out of the ring without turning his back and said, the hospital is closed, so go there tomorrow. Don't tell anyone I did it. Young Do-chol tilted his head slightly to call. Come on. Hyun-sung was standing there breathing heavily. Follow me. I'll give you my account number. Young Do-chol sat in a corner blankly looking at the phone. A few days ago, a broker from a newly formed MMA association offered him a deal, saying they would pay Chun a sum of money if he used drugs again and participated in their tournament to help them attract the public. He checked his account, just received 100 million won, just as promised by Hyun-sung. Young Do-chol looked at that money and thought, if it wasn't for with this amount of money, I'm sure I've agreed to that deal. Said, and then he typed on the keyboard to make Hyun-sung feel secure. I will refuse that offer. From Hyun-sung's side, while scooping a spoonful of hot rice. He comforted her. I just fought with some kids at school. Don't worry, it's nothing serious. Hyun-sung had already changed into another outfit at home. He had difficulty bringing the spoon of rice to his mouth. His hands and feet were bruised. After all, we still have a savings account to buy a house. Hyun-sung's grandmother said, crossing her legs to one side. Of course. These past few years she always saves 100 won. Hyun-sung slowly said. The bruises on his face were extremely numerous. I heard that Myeongjin Construction Group is launching an apartment purchase registration program this month. Can we try it? Maybe we can get lucky and be chosen to trade. Mrs. Hyun-sung said with a worried face. Even if we are chosen, we can't move in if we don't have money. Right? Hyun-sung immediately reassured her. That's just for those who don't know. He started explaining how to do it for her. Nowadays we can borrow money from the bank easily. And we can refund it immediately if we sell this apartment. But if we are not sure about the future, we can still sell the transaction rights to someone else. She heard Hyun-sung say this and suddenly asked, since when did your grandson become a real estate agent? Hyun-sung smiled when he heard that. He's not that bad. Then he looked down at his bowl and thought, Go Chang-beom will give my grandmother is on the shortlist. I want to give her 100 million worlds simply. Like the way I gave Young Do-chol. But then she will wonder the origin of that money. Instead, if I do it this way, she won't feel uncomfortable, he said and quickly put the rice into his mouth. Don't forget. The next day, on the school's rooftop, Jinwoo stood huddled together, in front of Shin Yun-min. He gave praise. Good job, Jinwoo. You are also rewarded. Jinwoo is confused. Shin Yoon-min put his hand on his shoulder again. I heard it all from the first years. He smiled and asked with satisfaction. I just finished talking and you're going to take care of it. Right, Jinwoo faltered in confusion. I mean, Shin Yoon-min leaned uncomfortably on the railing and said, Idiot, hey, you even pretended not to know. That guy is very aggressive, so I thought it would be a bit difficult. But it seems like you even hit him hard. I'm already fond of you. He cunningly smiled and advised. Jinwoo, from now on you can declare to everyone that you know me well. Let's hang out together after school. Jinwoo smiled awkwardly, sweating profusely. I don't understand all this. What else? But this is an opportunity. Thought so. He happily pointed his thumb at his chest and proudly shouted. Senior, from now on if you need any help just tell me. I know my name, yes. It's part Jinwoo. Shin Yoon-min laughed loudly and put her arm around Jinwoo's shoulder. That's cool, little devil. Jinwoo also laughed. Really? Jinwoo looked at the class in surprise. Yeah, I just came here to checking the situation. He looked straight at where Hyun-sung was sitting with bruises on his face. But what was wrong with his face? He was so arrogant that he was beaten outside the school. Jinwoo understood for a moment. He half smiled and said, Aha, so Shin Yoon-min thought he had defeated him. But since he was beaten to a pulp like that, I think he didn't either. How strong. He clenched his fist and smiled cunningly. Next time you dare touch me, I will beat you to a pulp and give you a lesson. Then he spoke up. The veins on his head appeared. Glared at his juniors. He threatened all the first years. If they dare to talk or play with Kim Hyun-sung, I will kill them.